What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining us right here on Off the Script. This is Tuesday Night Titans episode 61 for your Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. I am your host, JD from New York. As always, coming to you live with the very talented and today not feeling so well, the Solid Monster. What's going on, brother?
I've seen better days. That's for sure. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I feel for what you and I discussed earlier before the stream started. Jason had some dental work tonight, or today rather, and he is gracing us with his presence, even though he probably doesn't want to be here right now.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far and say I don't want to be here. Although I do see the golden arrow.
I moved it. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm just making sure. I got to live up to my name now. Although the golden arrow is a much better name than the Pure Fusion Collective.
Jesus Christ.
We could agree on that. But yeah, no, I had my first ever I was able to avoid it all these years. My first ever root canal today, which, yeah, not fun.
No.
Not fun, no. Although I still would rather, I think, have a root canal than watch Raw from 2019. I would say that.
That's a very difficult situation to be put in, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. But, you got to take the lesser of two evils. So now that I've experienced what this is like, I can say that with a straight face. I would still rather go through this than sit through another year of that. But, yeah, I would not recommend this for anybody. If you can avoid it, try to at all costs.
Take care of your teeth, folks. Please brush twice a day. Yeah. When your mom and dad used to tell you gotta go brush your teeth before bed, man. Don't give them any lip, okay?
Well, look, you could do that all you want to. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to avoid it. The first thing the guy asked me was, "Were you in a fight?" I said, "No, I wasn't." He goes, "Any kind of trauma?" I go, "No, not to my knowledge. I didn't bang my head against the wall, so I have no idea what happened." But we took care of it, and hopefully that'll be the end of that.
I hope so. I feel bad. Hopefully you are good to go for the next couple of hours here. And I want to thank everybody for joining us on episode 61. Shout out to all the fine fans of this show, man. Last week, I know Jason and I kind of overstayed our welcome potentially. We went 3.5 hours or so. We're nearing 50,000 views on that show last week. So no matter how long we go, man, the fans are sticking with us. And I want to thank you for all the overwhelming support, the views on the stream and the views on the podcast since Jason has joined as co-host on Tuesday nights have been a thing of beauty. So let's keep that up. Thank you guys very much for all the support. We have sold a T-shirt a day so far for the month of August. That is great because I would love to sell 30 T-shirts for the month of August, one every day. So if you guys can go and check that out. Bonfire.com. I think I have a picture here. Let's throw that up. New shirt right there. Tuesday Night Titans t-shirt. First of its kind for the show. If you guys want to support both Jason and I and what we do here on Tuesday nights, go and get yours today. Bonfire.com. Link is down in the description towards the bottom, so go check that out. If you guys have not purchased your t-shirt yet, go and do it because when you guys order, it is on demand. So you guys are going to get it as soon as you order it. No waiting for a campaign to end. It is right there for you. And it's a great looking shirt.
Yeah, love the logos on the microphone.
Yes.
Got off the script on one side, sound off on the other.
Yes, I love it. Thanks to Sal Rex, my guy Sal Rex, who made that design. And if you guys have not purchased that yet, it is now available on bonfire.com. Everything else you need, socials, YouTubes, everything you guys need for both of us are linked down below in the description. Super chats are open if you guys want to get them on in and hang out and make Jason feel a little bit better later. They are open. Get them on in. And thumbs up. I'd love to see at least, I'm going to try for 750 likes today. So make sure you guys go and do that. Hit the thumbs up. We would really, really appreciate that. As always, for episode 61, Jason, what do you want to talk about?
Well, why don't we start with Penta? Because there's been a lot of talk about him and his bro and where they may end up. And I know that we were talking about this before, he pushed back on a report from Wrestle Purists. And I don't have it in front of me. Again, I was sleeping half the day away, but I know there were some tweets. He was pushing back on it, but not necessarily denying the stories that have been going around. But I believe this was in reference to a report about him being at the Performance Center this week. Am I correct?
Yes, Ibu was on his platform on Wrestle Purist on YouTube, and he threw out the piece that Penta is expected at the WWE Performance Center as early as this week. And the report originally came from bodyslam.net. Jason and I talked about this last week on episode 60. What do Penta and Phoenix do? Where do they go? Why would they make a jump to WWE? If you guys want to catch up on all of the early basics, you can listen to it on episode 60. But as far as what we have today, this is coming from a lot of different sources. Bodyslam.net, Wrestle Purists, and Fightful's got the latest update as far as the Lucha Brothers are concerned. Now, they reported last week that Penta openly told some close to them, Penta told some close to him, that he'd already had conversations with WWE this summer and indicated that he didn't want to go through NXT and that he and Brother Phoenix were a package deal. Now, Feifel's told by WWE sources that the latter wouldn't be an issue as they've long been interested in Rey Fenix anyway, WWE. Penta pushed back on reports of such, but numerous sources close to Penta also said he claimed that he'd be in Orlando this week, but didn't specify if it was a Performance Center visit or something else. Penta does have a booking in Mexico on Thursday. From the AEW side, there were several who said that they suspected something like this had happened, but they were still shocked to see it in print. They'd offered Lucha Brothers a new deal that was supposedly the same as what Penta has told people WWE is willing to provide. Now, keep in mind, says Feifel, various details are claims from talent directly and because of contractual nature have not been confirmed. Among those claims from Penta to friends include the claim that his deal has already expired. He remains on the AEW roster page, and there were several within AEW that said if his deal actually hasn't expired, the company could tack on injury to both Rey Fenix and Penta to keep them within the company. A claim internally was that Lucha Brothers didn't want to do business in the appropriate ways that many exits from the company and other companies in general have done in the past. Multiple sources in AEW today believe Penta pushing back on reports so that his brother will be able to leave AEW without any contractual hurdles. Now, that was probably the one thing I was thinking about, Jason, when I read this report, because Penta immediately quote-tweeted WrestlePurist on Twitter and said, "Fake news, stop spreading and putting my name and attaching it to fake news." Obviously, the reports of Penta and Rey Fenix leaving for WWE, I firmly believe, I know we talked about it last week, I feel like he put that out there because it was something he really wanted to protect his brother on. He wants them to leave. It's in the report that they are a package deal. He wants Phoenix to go to wherever they go to next together instead of separate. And I feel like we've seen time and time again with talent in pro wrestling where they kind of jump on these dirt sheets and these reporters in these reports. Sometimes it's best not to say anything. But Rey Fenix and Penta, it's been widely speculated that they're going to NXT or WWE. He put this out there to protect his brother. Sometimes, in my honest opinion, it's best not to say anything at all, because if the reports end up being true and then he ends up over there after he's tweeting this out today, he's just going to end up looking silly. So I don't know what you make of it. I honestly think it's just a way to protect Rey Fenix.
My take on it is he was referring to the report specifically about being in Orlando or being at the PC this week. And it's entirely possible he won't be. And so he kind of latched onto that and said, well, that's not true. You know, that's fake. He didn't say anything in his tweets today about, just kind of the reports in general. These reports have been going around now for a couple of weeks. So why choose now to come out and say, oh, fake news? I think it was just him kind of using that as an opportunity to say, okay, this is not legitimate. Yes, because it may be legitimate that he's not going to be in Orlando. That does not mean that he is not having conversations about going to WWE, which I believe is probably, the case. It's a little weird, though, because if he's under contract, I do wonder how that works, where he would be able to have these discussions with them if he's still under contract to Tony Khan. So, I mean, is there a period where, it would be okay and in bounds for him to actually be negotiating with them while he is under contract?
Yeah, that's a good call out. It's kind of weird that everybody's kind of latching on to, oh yeah, they're going to WWE, but he's still with AEW. So how does that actually work? I mean, I don't think that works at all. Right.
And we've had, Tony Khan has complained very loudly in the past about contract tampering and WWE tampering with their talent. So I would think they would be sensitive to that sort of thing. So it makes me wonder what exactly his contractual status is. Are there, feelers being sent out? That would be very different than actually negotiating a deal with WWE. So I don't know that anything has been agreed upon. I don't think anything necessarily legally could be signed or agreed upon yet. Rey Fenix, I don't know exactly what date his contract is up. Penta, there are differing reports, but even Penta, I don't believe the reports have indicated his deal is up already. I mean, I've seen more reported that his deal is up later in the summer, maybe early in the fall. So I don't know exactly what is official and what's not, but do I believe that they are likely headed to WWE? I do. I do think that they're going to leave. I don't think that him saying fake news was necessarily in reference to the sort of overall narrative that we've been reading about over the past week.
Yeah, I know you discussed, I think we brought it up last week where WWE announced that they're going to have those two major shows. The first two shows on CW are going to be emanating from Chicago and in St. Louis. I know a lot is probably going to go into that. CM Punk's going to be on the Chicago show from the Allstate Arena. We got Randy Orton showing up for the St. Louis show. And a lot of people are predicting that we'll see Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, the Lucha Brothers potentially. Motor City Machine Guns has also been attached. Their name has been attached to WWE in some way, shape, or form. You know, whoever else is going to end up over there. Ricky Starks is obviously in the news. Jade Cargill Instagrammed the story with I guess, her training with Ricky Starks and then out to dinner with Ricky Starks. So, they're not really hiding what's going on. So I think everybody kind of expects him to end up over there. Daniel Garcia is another one. He's got WWE attached to him as well. We don't know what decision he's going to end up making. You know, they're going to load those shows up. Do they go to NXT? I don't really see them in NXT, but I would not scoff if they go to NXT. I always reference the quote from AJ Styles before he came to WWE, and he made his debut in the Royal Rumble that year, and then he went on to feud with Roman Reigns, which was great. But he always said, I probably would have benefited from 6 to 12 months in NXT just to get used to the WWE system. Do you find that to be something that the Lucha Brothers should do, or is it something that you see them going to the main roster and it's going to be okay for them?
I think if they go to the main roster, it'll be fine and they'll get acclimated pretty easily. But I do think that there is something to the idea that you kind of make a stop in NXT first, and it just gets you used to the way they do TV. Yeah, it's just a totally different system there. So it gets you exposed to a big audience right away because they're on USA and then they're going to be on CW very soon. And that's a big deal. And they are not only going to load up those first shows on CW, but they really want to put their best foot forward. So I don't look at it as a downgrade. If you're going to have, let's say, those first few shows and you're going to have people like CM Punk and Randy Orton making appearances, and if the Lucha Bros happen to show up on those same shows, you know, with a Punk, for example, like, is that really much of a downgrade? I don't see that as being a downgrade. If they spend a few months there, and then maybe as we get, you know, closer to WrestleMania, coming out of WrestleMania, they kind of make the leap to Raw or SmackDown. Maybe they get included in the next draft. I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's fine because most talent, they go through NXT. So there's not much of a stigma really attached to that anymore. AJ Styles was a rare instance of that. You know, Nakamura, when he came in, he started in NXT. Sami Zayn, all these big names from the independent scene, or in the case of Nakamura from New Japan, Ethan Page, right? He just went from AEW and now he's the champion in NXT.
I mean, one of the most glaring instances was Drew McIntyre was NXT champion. He even spent a little time down there.
Yeah, McIntyre. I mean, you can go down the list of all the names who did that. So I think it's fine. I don't know about these reports about Penta saying, you know, kind of drawing a line in the sand and saying, I don't want to go to NXT. I don't know if he said that or not, because again, I don't know what actual conversations have been had between the two sides. It's going to work out fine for them, I think, either way. I don't think it's going to be much of a difference as far as where they end up. They're going to end up pretty much in the same spot regardless. Whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. I'm already seeing the jokes about, you know, welcome to the LWO, you know, welcome to Legato. So,
I mean, they're not wrong to make those memes, though.
No, but it could happen. It could very well happen. So that's what I mean. Like, they're especially Penta. He's a guy who he can be a big star for them. And I know that their English may not be great. Like someone like Santos Escobar is pretty much fluent in English. Like he can go out there and cut a promo and you don't have to worry about subtitles, right? We watched Raw last night, Damage Control doing a promo in the back, they have subtitles. Nakamura would do those videos, they do subtitles. So that is something that I could see being a potential issue maybe for like a Rey Fenix on the main roster, because in WWE you have to be, you know, generally very verbal. And so that could be a strike against them, but they have so much international talent now and they're signing more. And not everybody is going to be fluent in the language. I think someone like Penta, it's not going to be an issue for him because he's so damn charismatic and he's just cool. You know, he's just the guy that the fans, I think, look at and go, that's a cool guy. and he's got his catchphrase, and I
That's
think
all
he's
he
going to
needs.
sell. That's all he needs. I mean, I look the gloves, when he pulls the glove off, he can make money off that, merchandising it. So I think even as a single, Penta would do very well for himself. But look, I look at them and I say they've been in AEW for 5 years, right? They were some of the originals. They were there on the very first Double or Nothing show. 5 years is a long time. And it's not as if Tony Khan has been doing much with them lately. Now, Phoenix has been hurt. And I know he came back, but apparently he's still hurting. Like, he's not 100%. So I can see a situation where they're looking at this and going, this may be it. This may be our time to really strike and get a great deal. And, business in WWE is obviously booming. And who knows? We sign another 3 or 4 year deal with AEW. And who knows what the situation is going to be 3 years from now. So I think the chances of them leaving are pretty damn good. And I think if they do, it's going to be a huge addition to that tag team division, whether it's NXT or the main roster. But the main roster could really use a shot in the arm right now in that division.
Yeah, and I think just based off what you said, the injuries that Rey Fenix has accumulated over the last couple of years, Penta has been less than as far as injuries are concerned, but their style is definitely going to change, which actually may be a benefit to the longevity of both Rey Fenix and Penta going to WWE. And that's, to me, the biggest takeaway and the most important aspect, because they are so great, valuable in everything that they bring to the table, and you want to maintain that. So it's going to be very interesting. That's the one thing I'm going to be looking forward to most, how they have their style toned down, or how much of their style is going to be toned down. So I'm excited to see what they do. I think that's a great pickup. They've accomplished everything that they could have accomplished in AEW. There's legitimately nothing else. And, Tony Khan, like I mentioned last week, he's got his hologram, and he's bringing in Ricochet, and who the fuck knows who else he's bringing in. It's just, he just feels like he's bringing in people every month. And the more you do that, the roster is already bloated. 70 to 75% of the roster does not get used. And someone like Rey Fenix and Penta are going to suffer because of that, and it's not fair. And they realize that. They were like, what the fuck are we doing? We're making money, but we want to get our name out there. And like Jason said, WWE's as hot as they've ever been. And right now is the right time to jump, if there is a time. So I commend them. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big loss for AEW if they do make the jump, not because Tony Khan doesn't have the talent to put on TV. He's got more talent than he knows what to do with. But again, 2 AEW originals that have been there since day one, who are very popular. And I look at someone like Penta, and even when Phoenix, was hurt, as he has been now for many months, I just don't know why he didn't do more with Penta and find like a story for him. I just feel like we never got that singles run from Penta. And he did so well for himself on Lucha Underground. And I was hoping to see that kind of version of him in AEW. And they just always held back. It was like they were just gun shy, or they just wanted him in a team, and they didn't really focus on him as a single. You look at what he's done this year, it's been a kind of a bunch of random matches. Yeah. I mean, the last singles match he had was against The Butcher, I think in July at some point on Rampage. He had a really good match with Adam Copeland for the TNT title, but what else have they done with him as a single? Nothing. Why not find something for him? So If he is of the mindset that, he's frustrated by that, totally understandable, because they have not taken advantage, I think, of what he can offer. He's still very popular, but it's just very spotty and very inconsistent. Hopefully, if they make the jump to WWE, they tap into, what they bring to the table. And like I said, as a tag team, they can be a huge asset to the division, whether it's in NXT or the main roster. You mentioned the Motor City Machine Guns before. Imagine picking both those teams up at the same time, right?
It's crazy.
That could, inject new life instantly, overnight, into your tag team division, which they could really use.
It's going to be interesting to see, guys. They are a rarity. Both are unbelievable as a tag team, and you split them up and put them in any situation as a single, and they're going to be just as good. So WWE are getting 2 legit winners, and I'm very excited to see what their future holds if they do end up in WWE. So get your dream matches ready, because more than likely it is going to happen. Another name that's been floating around, and I know Jason and I talked about this. We're not going to spend too much time on these 2 individuals, but Ricky Starks and Daniel Garcia There was news coming out this week in regards to both. It appears Ricky Starks and other AEW talent will have options when their deals come due. Starks has been away from AEW television, as you guys know. In past interviews, AEW President Tony Khan noted that he would love to have Starks back. I mean, I don't see why he is not able to use Starks. He pays the bills. He books the shows. If he wants Starks on the show, just give him a fucking phone call and get him in the city. Dynamite.
He could use him yesterday if he wanted to.
Yeah.
It's just he chooses not to because he probably figures, as everybody
He's on his way out.
Yeah, he's got one foot out the door and he doesn't want to invest time in him, which I understand. But still, I haven't been able to get any kind of clarity from any of these reports about when his contract is actually up. I mean, I remember reading reports that he still had some time left. Yeah. It's not like it's up in a month. So are you really going to bench the guy for 6 months, 9 months? That just seems like a complete waste to me. Even, Jericho, when he was already on his way to WWE, WCW used him. I think they used him mostly to do jobs, but, it's not like they just sat him at home for a year.
No.
So it's just, again, unless his deal is up imminently, it's just weird to me. And I know there were reports that supposedly he turned down one creative pitch for him to feud with Big Bill. Bill would turn on him, Ricky would go babyface, and supposedly he said no. He didn't want to do that. So there is that. But still very weird that you wouldn't utilize him in some way.
Yeah, it's very weird. With Starks, we again, like Jason said, we don't know when his contract is up. It's a double-edged sword. If he's being paid and he's home and he's injury-free and he's refreshed and he's training, sitting on his couch, he's making Tony Khan's money. So, I know he wants to be out there doing what everybody else is doing, but it'll end up coming right back to him when it's time. But Fightful most recently reported that breaking up with Big Bill, like Jason said, and feuding with him was the only pitch Starks has turned down in the last several months. Starks didn't think Bill losing a feud with him would benefit Big Bill. Instead, he wanted to have them have an amicable split, if anything. Now, PW Insider is reporting that sources in WWE have stated that there is certainly interest in a number of stars, one being Ricky Starks, the other Daniel Garcia. And according to Corey from PWN on X, Daniel Garcia is currently torn between staying with AEW or moving to WWE. It's confirmed that Garcia is not yet signed with AEW, and he's reportedly uncertain about his next steps with his contract set to expire in October. Now, we did talk about this last week. AEW did film the angle with MJF where MJF bloodied him and put him out in Buffalo for this specific reason. They are using that potentially if he doesn't re-sign with the company as a way to write him off television. That's also open-ended. If he does come back to AEW, he's got a built-in ready-made feud with MJF, whether it's for the International American title or not, that remains to be seen. But they did leave it open in both ways. Ricky Starks is as good as gone. He's already got a fucking Airbnb outside Titan Tower as we speak. Daniel Garcia is one that people are going to keep an eye on. To be honest with you, Jason, I think Daniel Garcia is a great professional wrestler. I don't really see the hype yet in Daniel Garcia. I also don't see if Daniel Garcia jumps ship to WWE that it's going to be this terrible thing. Like, I don't really think feuding with MJF and then relying on Tony Khan's creative and putting faith in Tony Khan to book Daniel Garcia after the fact, after he finishes that feud with MJF, that he's going to do anything right with Daniel Garcia. I don't think Tony Khan's going to take Daniel Garcia to the next step. So, in my honest opinion, if I'm looking at this as a fan, Daniel Garcia's choice is obviously up to him, but I honestly think the right choice for him is to be integrated into that NXT system, because I do think he's going to have a hell of a lot more faith in Shawn Michaels in that system than Tony Khan, because I personally, as a fan, I don't trust Tony Khan with anything right now. I mean, All In's been decent. The build has been very good, but I mean, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen next. Where are they going to go? Tony Khan's got all these different names that he's got to juggle. Is Daniel Garcia really going to factor into Tony Khan's long-term plans for the rest of 2024 going into 25? I think a jump is probably what's best for him.
The thing, Garcia, like you say, he's a very good wrestler. And I remember, I used to call him Main Event Garcia, because how many Dynamite main events did this kid get, right? More than a lot of top stars would get. So you could tell, even going back then, before he linked up with Jericho, that Tony Khan saw something in him, and it looked like he had maybe longer-term plans for him. Now, do you remember when he was with Jericho and they were teasing that he was going to split away?
Absolutely.
And then they pulled back, right? It
Absolutely.
was like a swerve. and then they didn't pull the trigger, I think, at a time where it would have been very beneficial for him.
Fans, I don't want to cut you off, but fans were ready at that point. Because Brian was egging people on. Like, I thought he was going to join the Blackpool Combat Club. Brian was in that angle.
Yeah.
Man, that would have been a huge pop if he did turn on the Appreciation Society, but they never went through with it.
Yeah, and I think that was at the time when Jericho maybe was the Ring of Honor World Champion.
Yep.
So maybe they would have put the ROH title on him. But, like, he was like a sought-after commodity. Like you said, Brian was almost like scouting him out. And then it was like, haha, it was all just a ruse. And then he went on to do not much of anything for the longest time. He had his little dance that he developed. So it was a weird thing that it felt like Tony Khan did legitimately see bigger things for him. Why he didn't pull the trigger, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me then. It still doesn't make sense to me now. That being said, I don't see him as far as WWE main roster. I just don't. Now, there may come a point where I do. You know, he's still very young. But I just don't see him on the WWE roster. Let's say if he was to end up there, doing much. So NXT would be better than the main roster, but I'm not convinced that leaving is necessarily what is going to happen here, because he does have a ready-made feud with MJF if he re-signs and chooses to come back. If you believe that Tony Khan really does see bigger things in his future and is going to pay him to keep him and you know, actually do something with him, AEW is the company that gave him his first big break. And I think if Tony Khan, you know, makes him a very sweet deal and says, hey, look, I'm going to lay out these ideas that we have for you, MJF, maybe there's another idea. If I'm him, I want some sense of, okay, what do you have planned for me over the next 6 months? Like, is there a plan here? Or is there not a plan and you just want to sign me and keep me? Because I would think back to what we just talked about, and I'm sure he felt the same way, where it was like he's about to break out and it's like they pulled back. And I'd be a little gun shy, but I would give Tony the chance to just explain to me, do you have a long-term kind of creative vision for me? And if I like what I hear, then I stay with AEW, because AEW gave me my first big break. And if I trust Tony Khan, then there may be something, you know, bigger in it for me. And he's still young enough where even at the end of some new deal that he signs, he's still probably going to be in his late 20s. So, like, going to WWE, I don't know if that's his dream. Some people, it's their dream, right? They've dreamt of going to WWE, and that's where they want to be. I think back to the Jade Cargill thing, you know, where it's like Tony said, what do you want? And she threw a dollar amount at him, and he gave her what she wanted. She still left, because I think she saw, okay, this is where I need to be, right? This is where I need to be if I want to be a bigger star and maybe have opportunities outside the company. I don't know what's in Daniel Garcia's head. I don't know if he grew up a WWE fan or not. I just feel like if I'm him and Tony Khan has a plan for me and he can articulate that, I stay with AEW. Because WWE, they're grabbing people left and right, and I don't see Daniel Garcia breaking out of that pack compared to like Ricky Starks and, you know, Penta and all these people they're signing. Do you see Daniel Garcia being at the head of the pack?
No,
He'll be another guy in the system.
I just don't see the high. Maybe the character work needs help. I don't know what exactly his character is outside the whole dancing gimmick that he does, but
that's the thing. Don't you think that it's a better fit for the AEW show and the AEW product right now? I just don't see him as a WWE guy. Maybe they could turn him into one. Maybe he can find himself there, and like you said, find some sort of character or I don't know if gimmick is the right word, but I just feel like he's actually a better fit right now for what Tony Khan is giving people, and he's liable to have more success. But it's a 50-50 thing whether Tony is actually going to follow through with these ideas.
Well, here's a question for you. I know you and I vehemently despised NXT 2.0. I mean, I have nightmares just thinking back to that debut episode. When I watched that episode and I saw what came after, a lot of those people I didn't really see as far as, well, this is what they're putting their future in. This is who they're putting their future, you know, hopes and dreams in. Like, half the fucking people I didn't really give a shit about. Yeah, you had your Carmelos and your Brons. I wasn't too big on Bron Breakker when I first seen the name, or when I seen him in the ring. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I never seen him before. you got your Von Wagners and Trick Williams. I think he's the one that stands out the most to me. Like, he was paired with Carmelo. They had that nice pairing going on. Carmelo was the star of that act. I didn't really see Trick Williams breaking out. I thought he was just a fucking tag along for the rest of his run down there. Now he's former NXT champion. He's a megastar in the making. He's got superstar charisma and aura. And man, did I get proven wrong. Is there anybody in NXT right now that you feel that same way about that you're saying about Daniel Garcia? I kind of want to agree with you, but again, I go back to the NXT system putting more faith in them. I honestly do think that with what they've churned out coming out of the Performance Center as of late, I do think that Daniel Garcia having that step in the right direction is more beneficial for him to going to NXT and then potentially making the jump to the main roster. I do think they'll get him ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll help get him ready for it, but I mean, I don't see any kind of like Daniel Garcia main roster run for a few years. I just think he would likely be one of these people that would be on NXT and in that system for a few years. And then maybe he'll be ready to get to that point. But in AEW, he'll be on television. He'll be making, main roster money because, Tony Khan, I'm sure will offer him a very nice deal. And he could potentially feud with some big names like MJF and maybe a few others. But again, if I were him, I would want to have something laid out to me because I remember what happened before and I had the rug pulled out from under me and then I just kind of languished and I don't want to do that again. And if he can't get that assurance from Tony Khan and there's interest from WWE, then sure, by all means, have that conversation. And if he feels he wants to make the jump, make the jump. Look, I think it would be smart for him to wait and test the free agent waters anyway, because all he can do is just drive up, the money that he'll be able to make. I think it would be smart for him to do that. But I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that, he needs to make the jump right now to WWE and, it's going to get him ready for a big main roster run in the near future. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening right now, and I don't know that he necessarily needs to make that jump right now. Someone like Penta turns 40 next year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very different story. Penta, I think, turns 40 in February, and you're talking about signing a 3 or 4 year deal, 5-year deal. Now you're in your mid-40s, right? His way of thinking is going to be very different than someone like Garcia, who, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he maybe is 25, right? Somewhere in that
around
range.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's younger than MJF, so he's got time if that's kind of his ultimate destination. Why not, if you trust that Tony will do this, why not build up your stock a little bit more and maybe win some championships and work with some, main event level talent on TNT and TBS and hopefully get his stock up even more so that in a few years he'll be an even bigger commodity, and he can go to WWE at that point. But of all these free agent names we're talking about here, if I had to rank them, and I'm not saying that Garcia is a worse wrestler than, Hook, because there were rumors about Hook a few months ago, and his contract possibly coming due and wanting to test out free agency. Whether it's him or Ricky Starks or someone, I just think that he would be at best 3rd or 4th in that line. And I don't know that he would necessarily be in a much better spot if he made the jump. He might be better off staying in AEW.
We'll follow it. There's a lot of guys in that boat. Wardlow's another one. Miro, you guys know the list of names.
Forgot about him. What's going on with him?
Who, Wardlow?
Where's he at? No, you mentioned Miro.
Oh, I don't know. Miro's back in Bulgaria from what I last read. After the divorce.
Yeah, that was like 9 months ago. Is he still in Bulgaria?
I guess so. I don't know.
Well, see, you brought up an interesting point, though. We didn't mention that name. You mentioned Wardlow. Wardlow's a totally different story. Wardlow is someone who should be in WWE yesterday. And I 100% believe that he will have way more in the way of opportunities to become a big star there than he ever will in AEW. So if you put him and Daniel Garcia next to each other, if I'm Shawn Michaels and I'm, Paul Levesque and I'm looking at this, I'm grabbing Wardlow, over Daniel Garcia. This guy could be a star like right now, right? I feel like he would be like a pet project for them in a way that Garcia would not be. So in the case of a Wardlow who has been screwed over just time and time and time again, there is nothing left for him in AEW. I mean, nothing. I don't know if you see it differently, but that sponge has been wrung out dry.
Wardlow should have been in WWE a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and he didn't, and look where he is now. When was the last time we saw him on TV? Get him to NXT.
He lost to Samoa Joe.
Yeah, get him to NXT.
Is there
Garcia should not be the priority here. Someone like Wardlow should be a priority for WWE if they were going to pluck somebody out of the AEW system.
Is there a situation in your mind that if Garcia doesn't go to WWE now, with all these names that we're mentioning that probably will end up over there, like Wardlow and whoever else wants to jump ship, is it going to be a situation of too little too late? Is WWE going to want Garcia less after a potential 3-year, 5-year contract? Or is that something Daniel Garcia doesn't have to worry about?
I personally don't think he has to worry about it because I think his work is quality. So I think he'll be okay. I don't think he's going to be completely buried in AEW. I think, especially for the money they would probably be paying him, I'm sure he would be featured. So yeah, there's something to be said for being featured on national television. And as long as he can stay in the mix, and his work may only get better because even now, young as he is, he's a great pro wrestler. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think in his case it's going to be one of those situations where he looks back in 3 years and goes, man, I missed my window and that's it. I guess I lost my shot. I think he'll be fine. Someone like Wardlow cannot afford another 3 years of nothing. Okay, because I think that would just be crippling to him.
What a disgrace.
That's something that he may not be able to recover from.
What a fucking disgrace that is. That legitimately angers me, honestly.
Yeah, well, of course it does, because there's no reason for it. There's no reason for it. You can find times, maybe he was hurt. Okay, maybe he's hurt. Tony can't use him. You can't. There's no excuse, because for years now, he has been mishandled. He has been misused or not used at all. And every now and then he'll be interviewed and he'll make a comment. He doesn't come right out and say it, but if you kind of just read between the lines, you could tell he's frustrated. And I don't know how much time he has left on his deal. If he's under lock and key for years or if he's got months left, I don't know. And I think he has been, at least in the words that I've heard him say in the past, very loyal to AEW. And again, he's an AEW original guy. Nobody knew him before he was on AEW TV, right? He was on the independent scene for a little while, I think in the Northeast. But I can understand there being a loyalty there. He's at a point now where there should be no loyalty because AEW has not really been very loyal to him.
Yeah.
They had something in him and they squandered it. So if I'm him, yeah, I'd be fucking pissed if I were him, and I would have a chip on my shoulder. I would want to leave, whether I go to WWE or Japan or wherever, TNA, just to prove, okay, this is what you had in me and this is what you lost. So that's a guy who I think would be extra motivated wherever he lands to, put his best foot forward and just tear it up. And I hope he gets that chance because he has been absolutely just, I don't even know a strong enough word to use other than just screwed and fucked over, honestly, by the booking in AEW. And I just can't figure it out. It doesn't make sense to me.
For the good that AEW does, whether you like AEW or not, they do some good. I cannot fathom how a pro wrestling promoter has dropped the ball on somebody like Wardlow. You may think differently. I think he's got the look, the size, the speed, the athleticism that you cultivate and you train. I mean, that's a fucking main event guy, ready and waiting to just break out. Like, it is deplorable how creative dropped the ball on someone like that. And that's what I'm talking about. The faith in Tony Khan to build and cultivate talent the way that you need. I mean, what the fuck are you doing, man? Money's not going to solve everything. You can throw fucking all the money you want at these people, but if you're not building the young kids, the young talent like a Wardlow, like a Starks, like a Daniel Garcia, and you're not investing in them, you got nothing. You got nothing because the young kids are the future of this fucking industry. And Wardlow is definitely a part of that. And he broke out, and he was organic, he was natural, and then, like Jason said, he just fucking disappeared. He won a goddamn fucking battle royal, meaty battle royal, where the fuck it was. Wrestled Samoa Joe and then vanishes like fucking Batman in the night. Where'd he go? Where's his hair? That's what I want to know. Did he grow his hair back?
I think that was the beginning of the end for him when he got the ponytail cut off. It was like his power source, and it got cut off. Yeah, I'll never get over that. He won. I think the Meat Madness thing was like a gauntlet of some kind. Yeah. I don't think it was a battle royal. but he wins it, right? He wins a shot at the championship. And then he just wrestles Samoa Joe like a week later, loses. And remember what Adam Cole said, because he was part of that wonderful faction, the Undisputed Kingdom, that was so successful. And the idea was, okay, you had one job and you failed. And so now your only job is to make sure that we don't lose our other titles. And he failed at that too, by the way. And then we haven't seen him since. So is he in a Ricky Starks position where his contract is due soon and Tony Khan thinks he might leave and so he's not going to use him? I mean,
no, they just forgot. They forgot that was even uttered.
I think they may have forgotten that he even is employed by the company. Yeah. He might have to be reminded. We have to remind him every now and then.
Man.
It's very frustrating. Like you said, he organically got over.
And you had fans chanting Wardlow in the same tone as they chanted Goldberg back in the 90s. How the fuck do you fuck that up? Really?
Yeah. And again, he's a guy who he's got all the tools. Even if you think he doesn't, I'm not saying he's the total package. He's perfect. Like a little fine tuning and working with the right people, sure. But like he's got certain athletic gifts. For a guy who's on the bigger side, he'd be doing a whisper in the wind, flying 3/4 of the way across the ring. So it's not like he's just some big guy who lumbers around. Like he can work his ass off. He can speak. He's very well spoken.
Yeah.
You would think that somebody like that has all the tools, and the proof again is in the fact that he was able to organically get over once before. He can get over again if you come up with the right story for him. Tony Khan is either incapable of doing that or for whatever reason just doesn't see him as a priority. And I don't, when I see some of the other people sometimes who get pushed, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So
don't worry, bro. We're going to get Braun Breaker as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion at some point in the next 2 to 3 years. And then when Wardlow gets there, man, we're going to have a future WrestleMania main event. I think maybe we start booking WrestleMania 48, 49, Wardlow versus Braun Breaker for the world title main event.
Could be.
I'll take it.
I said, if you look at all the WrestleManias that have ended in 0, like you get Brett, right, closing out 10, winning the world title, the new generation era. And 20, it was Benoit. 30, it was Daniel Bryan. 40, it was Cody. But like you look at that, and it's almost impossible to predict who will even like be in the company come WrestleMania 50. Like whoever's going to be in that main event at 50 in that spot is probably somebody who is not even on the roster right now. Who knows? Maybe it's someone like a Wardlow.
Probably say you're correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you never know. You never know. It's still a long ways off, but he is someone who I don't think can afford to spend another 3 or 4 years floundering and doing nothing, because you get a stink attached to you at that point. You get that stench of failure, and you don't want that. So he's somebody who, if I'm him, I'm making a move. Doesn't matter where, what, but I'm getting the hell out of there, because Tony Khan has done nothing, I think, to deserve to keep his services. So we'll see what's in his future. But again, I don't know when his contract is up. So
speaking of contracts, the Young Bucks, they have a nice lucrative contract, and their lucrative contract has them working limited dates. They've had the tag team championships since AEW Dynasty. How many times, Jason, have they defended those tag team titles on TV?
0.
Wow.
0 times.
Wow, man, that's some flourishing tag team division that you guys promised us there in year 1. What happened?
Well, I guess we're getting a title match on Dynamite tomorrow night.
Yes,
so
with FTR already saying they want the winners, man. I can't wait to watch that 5th match that nobody gives a shit about at Wembley between the Young Bucks and FTR. Apparently, the Young Bucks have been off TV because their contract has them working limited dates. This was discussed on the Wrestling Observer with Brian Alvarez.
Well, wait a minute. So you don't think that we're going to get some kind of a screwy finish tomorrow and then probably a 3-way ladder match?
I hope so. I hope a ladder match would be great, but I mean, how many fucking ladder matches have we seen, man? I'm just so desensitized to ladder matches.
Yeah, but we got a regular, just straight up match last year at Wembley a year ago between the Bucks and FTR, and I don't need to see just I don't need to see just a blind repeat of that. So at least this would be something different.
I know AEW Collision is your most favorite show in the entire world, man. I know you watch it weekly and you love it. You can't miss it.
No, second only to Rampage.
Oh, wow, Rampage, man. They did fucking burning the world down over there. FTR, can you answer me this question? What has FTR done to even be in the discussion for the AEW Tag Team titles? Have they even been involved with Tag Team Championship gold as of late? Why are they all of a sudden involved? That's what I want to know.
Because I think Tony is looking to get them a spot on the card at Wembley.
Just because?
I mean, isn't that what he does? He tries to get everybody on the show. So I think right now we have about 7 matches official. 3 or 4 more that are likely. And you don't think he's going to look to add another 3 or 4 on top of that?
7 matches, I would probably, realistically, a sane human being would maybe add
10.
1 more.
Well, no, I think 10 because they got the pre-show, the buy-in pre-show, which, by the way, they put Statlander and Willow in a tag match on the pre-show, so that's where they're going to be. But yeah, they have a pay-per-view 2 weeks later, so we have to keep that in mind. So you want to save some matches for that show. I just think FTR of late has been phased down. They were gone for a while. And I just think that he wants them in the mix so that they can be on that card at Wembley. Because it looked like they were building to the Bucks and the Acclaim, I thought, in London. And then they announced it's going to happen on TV this week. And that's why I was thinking, okay, we've had the Acclaimed and FTR beefing lately. They're going to end up getting factored into this. And we're going to have at least 3 teams, probably all going for the belt with some kind of a stipulation on the all-in card, just to get them all on there. I don't think they're going to win the belts back or anything like that. I would imagine they're going to want to keep the belts on the Bucks. But yeah, I mean, it's insane. You know, to win the belts in April, and now we're in August, mid-August, and only now are they about to defend their titles for the first time. It's ridiculous. You know, and I would say the same thing, and I have about WWE and Logan Paul, and I mean, we can go down the list of part-time champions there. I just don't see how that can be looked at as a good thing.
No, and Alvarez says if you're upset about the Young Bucks not being on TV, which you might not be upset. I mean, some people just don't want them on TV at all, and the ratings obviously are a little bit better when they're not on TV from the things that I've seen. If you're upset about the Bucks not defending the tag team titles, he said blame Tony Khan. He's the one to blame. Because whatever contract they signed, it was for X number of dates, and he has not wanted to pay them. Maybe he's not, or maybe he's got some plan for the end of the year, or they used a bunch of dates at the beginning of the year. I don't know what it is, but it's not the Young Bucks deciding, hey, we're going to take the summer off and not defend our tag team titles. So it's all on Tony Khan.
So what are they on the old Brock Lesnar deal?
Well, he did mention Brock Lesnar. He says it's like Brock Lesnar. Remember when people got mad at Brock for never showing up? Like somehow Brock was calling the shots. I mean,
they could have had Brock, but they would have had to pay him extra for those dates, and they didn't want to.
Ridiculous. I mean, Tony Khan can do whatever he wants with his money. But as far as the Bucks not being on TV, that's great. Just don't give them the fucking tag team titles and start resuscitating that dead division, which right now I can't even think of outside of the 3 teams that we just mentioned here that potentially will be involved at All In, who the other fucking teams are in that division, man. I see a lot of promos for the Outrunners. Let's get them on fucking TV, man. Some Miami Vice-looking dudes with long hair, 80s vibe. Get them on TV. Something. Start building the division. But right now, I can't get excited about anything tag team wrestling in AEW, Jason. I mean, from year 1 to year 2, it was tremendous television. And even into year 3, but year 4, year 5, I mean, I know WWE's in the shits too, but at least they're trying to build something up over there. Not yet totally, but AEW is fucking terrible. I'm sorry. I don't know what's gone wrong over there. I don't know if it's Tony Khan taking the power away from the Bucks, but I feel like when the Bucks had some sort of power there in year 1, year 2, things were flourishing in the division. Now, I don't think they even give a shit.
It's not what it used to be. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, the tag team division was their strong suit. They had the best tag team division, I think, certainly in this country, in the entire business for a while there. And you would read, it was like a laundry list and a who's who of all these teams they had there those first few years. And now it's kind of, the pendulum has swung completely in the opposite direction. I would argue that their women's division, just in terms of pure talent, is far more impressive than their tag team division. And that's not something I would have said, 3 years ago.
No.
So it's just funny how it's flipped in that way. And it's sad because, again, that was once their strong suit and now it's not. And that's not to say that WWE is doing that much of a better job with their division. There shouldn't even be 2 sets of tag team titles in that company right now, but that's a different issue. But yeah, no, I mean, if this is the way it's going to be, then they need to, get those belts off of them put them back on the Acclaimed. I mean, the Acclaimed has definitely cooled off from, I would say, where they were at their peak of popularity, but they're still popular. Maybe put the belts back on them and just start taking steps to really build up that division again. I think the trio stuff hurts it a little bit when there's more of a focus on the trios and not the regular, just, plain tag team titles. I think that probably hurts a little bit, but it's still no excuse to neglect your tag team division. There's no reason for that.
No. And I hope that some sort of work goes into building that. Like Jason said, the women's division this year has been a huge focus. They've done a lot of good. Still a work in progress, obviously, but hopefully in 25 they start doing what they did with the women's division, with the tag team division. So hopefully we get some reworking there moving on into the future. But Kenny Omega, some AEW news outside the tag team division. Kenny Omega, his recovery from diverticulitis is going very well. According to Dave Meltzer, he is apparently back in the gym. He is working out lightly. Meltzer added, I looked up the surgery that he had. Usually for a wrestler, it's about a 4 month recovery. So a lot of wrestlers push it and probably come back quicker. So that would be mid-September, but he just didn't have a hernia problem. He had a lot of different problems. So it'll probably be before the end of the year before AEW gets Kenny Omega back, according to Dave Meltzer, which obviously take that information with a grain of salt. But I know a lot of people are looking forward to Kenny Omega's return. I know they specifically have given Okada the Continental Championship in the hopes that Omega and Okada would take place at Wembley for the Continental Championship. Clearly, that's not happening. I don't even know if the Continental title is going to be defended at Wembley. I don't think so. I know Claudio is challenging Okada in Cardiff, Wales on AEW Dynamite. And
you think they're not going to have Okada on the card at Wembley?
And who would he wrestle, though? I mean, is he going to be Claudio just in a fuck finish on that Cardiff show and then lead to a second match?
It'll probably be Claudio. I mean, they're going to have their match on 4 days before the show, and they'll just run it back at Wembley, most likely. Look, Okada supposedly is either one of, if not the most, probably the highest paid guy in that roster.
Yeah.
And he's as big of a star as he is. I would be shocked if Tony is trying to find a spot for almost everybody else and can't find one for Okada on the Wembley card. I just don't see that.
Well, I mean, the only reason why I said that is because we have All Out 2 weeks later. So for storyline purposes, maybe it didn't fit to have him on the Wembley show. But yeah, you are logical.
No, if you're going to have all the other members of the Elite represented, the Bucks are going to be wrestling. If Jack Perry is defending his title, then there's no reason that Okada would not be on that show.
I know that they wanted Omega and Okada. Claudio and Okada are battling over that championship now. I could wait on an Okada and Omega feud. Maybe he's back in time for the Continental Classic. Maybe he wins the Classic and gets Okada through that means. I don't know. But more importantly, Omega being back on television obviously adds another world title contender, another big baby face to the ranks there in AEW. But more importantly, in my honest opinion, from my POV as a fan, there's a lot of, and I mention this frequently, a lot of what AEW is missing, that essence, that soul, is not really there anymore. Ospreay's got a little bit of that. MJF is that. You see that dabbled in a couple of other guys as well, briefly. But I feel like Omega is a huge presence to that overall vibe that is sorely missing from AEW. So I'm very much looking forward to him being back, and it can't be soon enough, Jason. He is a huge, integral part of their television.
Yeah, and it's a shame, though. It's a shame that he couldn't be back in time for this show, because I'm sure this would have been one of the top 2 matches on the show. Yeah. You would have had Okada and Omega reviving their feud, Continental title on the line, 50,000 people. It would have been huge. So that's too bad, but he in many ways, he's part of that heart and soul of this company. And the quicker they can get him back, especially if he's healthy again, the better off they'll be. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the bomb that was dropped on us.
Oh my!
A moment ago.
Goodness, where's everybody here, man? Holy shit!
I believe that translates to 500 US.
We have a massive, and I mean a massive bomb. This is probably the biggest bomb in the history of TNT. Abdullah with a $500 super chat. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
He says, the Bucks versus Copeland and Christian is the match I would love to watch live. What things that may prevent this match to happen other than injuries? He says, we didn't get Punk versus Bryan, sadly. Abdullah, listen, brother, that was the one thing I wanted from AEW, man, and we didn't get it. We didn't get Punk versus Bryan, also Okada versus Omega. I've been live to 3 of the 4 matches and would love a 5th. Do you see other must-see matches with story and history backing, says Abdullah. Thank you so much, brother. That means the world to me and Jason, and thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you, man. Wow, that is incredible.
Outside of what you said, Abdullah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I know for years I have wanted as a fan, because I genuinely do feel like it should have been a main event of WrestleMania while they were both still within the company. Punk versus Bryan. I would have loved to see that in AEW. I genuinely feel we were going to get that, but...
And I think they wanted to. I think they wanted to work together.
Yeah. Whether it would be at a Grand Slam or a Wembley like this, this would have been the perfect stage for that to happen if things just went the right way. But that was my dream match in AEW, number 1 for sure. I don't know about you, man. If you have any other matches with story backing that you want to see.
I mean, I don't know that there's any, beyond that jump out at me that have not already been done, because Tony, of course, he loves doing all the dream matches. I don't know that we've ever had Samoa Joe and Kenny Omega work together. I'm trying to think in my head if they've ever, certainly not in AEW that I can remember. I mean, I always thought that would be, a pretty badass program if they wanted to do something with the two of them. Bryan and Joe. Have Bryan and Joe worked a program together in AEW?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. What I was hoping for, and we'll never get it now, but I was hoping that at some point we would have gotten a 3-way match with Punk, Bryan, and Joe. Yeah, just playing off their history together in Ring of Honor, and we never got it, which is too bad. Although we got Punk and Joe. That was Punk's last match in AEW, so at least we got that. But no, I can't think of too many others playing off of kind of a drawn-out history that we haven't already seen.
It's a little typical, Abdullah, but I feel like all parties involved, they were very selfish. I feel like if everybody wanted to be on the same page, whatever happened with Brawl Out, and they bring that to TV and make that into a storyline, Kenny Omega versus CM Punk would have been... I would have legitimately paid, wherever they were going to hold that match, paid to go be there live. That would have been tremendous. Whether it's Chicago, London, I think the whole Elite versus FTR and CM Punk would have been fucking tremendous television. I mean, they fucked up. That I know is very simple and very basic, but that was their biggest storyline, and they fucked it all up. Honestly. But Abdullah, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Jason, appreciate you. And let's keep that energy going live, man. Thank you very much for all the support here on Tuesday Night Titans, episode 61. We got 2,100 live tonight so far. I know you guys are watching NXT. Somebody in the chat said you guys are missing a good NXT. Yeah, you say that every week, man, but every time. I watch it on demand Thursday, and I'm falling asleep within 1 hour. So I do not trust you guys when you say it's a good NXT. But
you're gonna rowdy up the NXT crowd now.
Listen,
and have them coming after you.
It's not my first rodeo rowdying any crowd up, but I embrace it. Swerve Strickland. Let's move on to the other AEW news that we got here. Kenny Omega, I wish he is in good health. I hope he's back very, very soon. Swerve Strickland, the AEW World Champion here, obviously defending that title against Bryan Danielson at Wembley Stadium in 2 weeks. There are plans, Jason. Now, we don't know if it will be for the championship or not. We will talk about that in just a second. But AEW plans for Swerve Strickland and Adam Page to potentially take place. This is according to Ibu of Wrestling Purists. He's got some info as of late. He reported on Twitter that Swerve Strickland and Adam Page is currently planned for AEW All Out in Chicago on September 7th. Now, it's an interesting story because Adam Page right now doesn't have a match at Wembley Stadium. I think coming out of the Dynamite show that we saw on Wednesday that I wish I could forget because it was fucking terrible. was boring. I think at the end of the show, Adam Page attacked Jeff Jarrett for no reason. Or maybe there was a reason, but he blasted him from behind and they started brawling in the back.
It was a segment that they filmed for social media.
Yeah.
And it was after the show, and Jarrett was being interviewed, and Page just kind of bumped into him, and they just started going at it. And at the same time they started fighting, there was another fight that broke out between Tony Storm and Mariah May. So it was like this chaotic scene.
Did Tony fear for his life is what I want to know.
Well, it depends how far Gorilla was from where the brawl broke out, but he's got Christopher Daniels now. He's kind of like his de facto bodyguard. So,
sure.
Yeah.
But Adam Page right now, according to that, speculation.
Let me ask you a question. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to ask you a question. And maybe it's a stupid question. But what exactly, I guess if you're Tony Khan, I'm trying to think about this from like a storyline perspective. I'm fine with Chris Daniels being the voice for Tony Khan, so we don't have to have Tony come out on TV and kind of yell these announcements out. But like, what purpose, I guess, does he serve if we know Tony Khan is sitting behind the curtain?
He serves zero purpose.
Okay.
Zero.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. I mean, the whole storyline died when Tony Khan basically came back and handed Darby Allin a fucking flamethrower. There he is, man. He's back. He's back in business. Okay.
Basically, that's literally what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, he drove him to the building and gave him a flamethrower. And then, Britt Baker got suspended, both in real life and in storyline. And then this week, Tony decided, you know what? I actually have some power in this company. Maybe I'll unsuspend Britt Baker, which I don't know why he didn't do that in the first place. But it's just these questions that I ask. When I ask them, certain fans get very upset.
You mean the AEW fans get upset when you criticize, man? Wow, that's new information to me, man.
Yeah. Well, the sickos, they get very upset.
They are fucking sickos. Swerve and Adam Page. Again, we don't know if Adam Page is going to be wrestling Jeff Jarrett at Wembley. To me, that seems like a fucking Rampage match, honestly. But
well, I was just going to say, we have a new match that has been added as of last week. It's called the Casino Gauntlet.
How many of those have we seen this year? 4?
Well, there's been 2 others, and I will say that especially the last one that made
that one was Dynamite, that one was very good. Yes,
that one. The first one was good too, but that one was badass. But this is already the third one. This is going to be the third one in about 4 months. So it's like, all right, maybe you want to give that a rest here for a little while. I'm just surprised we haven't gotten the announcement yet for a Stadium Stampede. I'm a little worried that that's yet to come.
Don't jinx
us. But it would strike me that Hangman should be in that Casino Gauntlet, and he should win. And that's how he gets his future shot at the AEW World Championship. I was surprised when I read the item about them potentially setting that match up for All Out. And we don't know if that will be for the title or not. But if it is, it surprises me only because Darby Allin already won a Royal Rampage, and he's getting a World Championship match on Dynamite, the Grand Slam show on the 25th next month. So I thought maybe they would want to hold off until after that and then maybe have either do Hangman and Swerve for the title. But again, I guess it's always possible that they do the match and it's not for the championship in Chicago.
Yeah, it's a very interesting development. This gauntlet match that they're doing at Wembley, I don't mind it. It like you said earlier in the show, it's going to get everybody on the show, which is great. Apparently, Tony Khan's going to load the match up with surprises. I don't know what that means, in fact. We could see Ricochet make his debut. Who knows what's going to happen in that match? The way that I see this playing out is, and I want to read this first before we get into this discussion, because I feel like with this news, a lot of people are taking this news in regards to Bryan as, is this too predictable? Is this a work? Is this a shoot? Is he really retiring? Bryan Danielson said, the odds are I'm going to have to get neck surgery before the end of the year. He said this in an interview with, I don't know who this was exactly. AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland was interviewed by Jim Ross. See, obviously, he's building the matchup. Danielson plans to retire from full-time competition if he doesn't beat Swerve Strickland. Danielson obviously mentioned that he wants to tone down his schedule for his daughter. This was mentioned back last year, I believe. And Danielson apparently said this, Jason, even the way I feel right now, I mean, odds are I'm going to have to get neck surgery by the end of the year. That's the reality of the situation. It's kind of something I have to accept. It's coming down the pike relatively soon. My first question to you is, why would he say this so early, or I would say before all in? Why would he say this and then put a predictable damper, or I guess not so predictable damper on the match, however you want to look at it? I mean, is this something that shouldn't have been said just for the outcome of the match? How do you feel about this?
I read it as part of the story they're telling. I mean, it goes back to when he took the Tiger Driver at Dynasty, and ever since then, it's been all about his neck. So I think he's just putting that out there and trying to get sympathy. They're trying to do the underdog story. Because remember, I mean, up until the time that Jeff Jarrett gave him that little pep talk, he was talking like, I don't know, my neck. I don't know if I'm going to hold out long enough. And Jeff is like, look, snap out of it. You won the Owen. You're going to the main event at Wembley. Act like it. So I heard that and just thought, okay, it just plays into the story. Swerve will probably go after his neck and will try to cripple him. And they want you to believe that, he's not going to win the championship. And then in the end, he wins the championship. And it's this great kind of underdog moment where he battled through injury and all these obstacles. And in the end, he was able to win the one title that he hasn't been able to win. So I think it was done intentionally, him mentioning that and bringing that up. I don't know that he is getting neck surgery at the end of the year, but I think he wants people to think that he is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the reason I wanted to start off with that first before we get into where they possibly go creatively here is because this is going to play into what happens over the next 3 to 4 months. Wrestle Dream is taking place in Tacoma, Washington. Bryan Danielson is not missing that show. For his last full-time active in-ring career before he starts going really, really part-time, I don't think he's missing that show. I also don't think Tony Khan, no matter what Bryan thinks or no matter what Bryan says, because if you ask Bryan, I would be a betting man to sit here and tell you guys, I don't think Bryan wants to win the World Championship. Tony Khan would love to put the World Championship on Bryan Danielson. I think if you ask Bryan, he wants to put the future over. He wants to build everybody else up before anything good happens to him. Tony Khan is going to put the title on Bryan Danielson. He's going to beat Swerve. And where Adam Page falls into that, this is where it gets interesting. Adam Page versus Jeff Jarrett, I don't think that should be on the Wembley card. Adam Page in that gauntlet match, I think that kind of speaks to it being a lot better creatively for Adam Page. Jarrett can be in that match. You can load that match up with Ricochet. He can do his fancy shit in that match. Pac is another thing I want to talk about here. Pac says he wants a Wembley moment. If I was booking Wembley, I'd have Pac issue an open challenge and Ricochet comes on out and they have a banger match to open the show. That's the way I would do it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's too late in the game for that. We would have seen it already. So I think Pac is going to be in this match. I think, Jason, Pac is going to win this gauntlet match. I think we're going to get Bryan versus Pac for the World Championship at some point later this year. Adam Page is going to go psycho, and he's going to cost Swerve the championship. And that's how we get All Out with Swerve and Adam Page, which I don't mind, but to me, I feel like the championship is the thing that is going to hold this feud together and the reason why he's back. So without it being for the World Championship, I don't really see it fulfilling the story upon Adam Page's return. So I don't know how you feel about it, but if it's not going to be with the title involved, that's the way I see it. I would much rather prefer it be the championship involved. How do you see this working out?
Well, this is, assuming that the report is accurate and that's the match they're going to be doing in Chicago at All Out. I could see Hangman getting involved in some way, whether it's a distraction or something, so that Swerve has an excuse when he loses to Bryan in the main event at Wembley. That would not be AEW's style. You don't see too many finishes like that. And in the main event of their biggest show of the year, that would be a little lame, frankly. But I could see Hangman playing some kind of a role if Swerve was to end up losing that championship. I think the way you do it is you have Hangman in the gauntlet. Hangman wins the gauntlet. They have not said when the winner gets a shot at the World Championship. It does not have to be right away. I agree. As of this moment, I tend to believe that Bryan is going to win the world title. And I think that Tony Khan wants to give him his big moment. You could then go on to do Swerve and Hangman, not for the title in Chicago. I wouldn't even necessarily do the match in Chicago. I think that you give Bryan a month, right? Have Bryan and Darby at Grand Slam, which is a match we've never seen before. I actually kind of want to see that match because it's just such a difference in styles between the two. But you mentioned Wrestle Dream, and they're going to be in Tacoma, which is where I think Swerve was born there. I don't know if he was raised there, but he was born there. Obviously, Bryan's from Aberdeen. They're both from the Pacific Northwest. They're both going to be super over. I think you run it back at Wrestle Dream, and you do Bryan and Swerve, and this time Bryan does the honors, and he drops the belt back to Swerve. And that's Bryan's final match as a full-time performer. Swerve is now the champion again, and that's where Hangman pops up. And that's where Hangman says, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it 1 year to the day, 1 year to the event that you and I had the Texas Death Match, and at Full Gear, your main event is Hangman and Swerve 1 year later, this time for the AEW World title. That's how I would do it. And I think there's a chance it works out that way, but I like that as far as like a callback to their match from a year ago, setting up a major pay-per-view main event for the championship. I was hoping it would happen at Wembley. They decided to go a different way with it, but I would do it at Full Gear and not even do it in Chicago at All Out. I think you can hold off until Full Gear. But he's got to win that gauntlet, though, to get the shot in the first place, because things haven't been going his way. They even mentioned that on TV. Like, boy, I think it was Renee who said, Hangman, things haven't been going your way. All it takes is one win. Yeah, he wins that match. He's got a title match in his back pocket. Bryan gets his month. Bryan drops it back. I mean, it all makes sense to me. That's how I would.
If he wins that battle royal, they still, obviously it depends on if it happens or not. It's just speculate. Yeah, the gauntlet match. Does that match with Swerve at All Out still take place, even though he won the gauntlet match? Does that kind of propel him to get his only win over Swerve? Is that something that they're thinking about? He's got to at least beat him once, and then he's got the championship in hand anyway. So when Swerve wins the championship back from Bryan, he's going to cash that championship in and then obviously lose to Swerve in Full Gear.
You could do that. Again, I'm kind of intrigued to the idea that Hangman just never beats Swerve. It just ends up being the one thing he can't do. I don't know if they would do that, though. But to your point, you could do the match, non-title, in Chicago and have Hangman win. And now Hangman can hold it over him and say, see, I beat you once. And when he gets the belt back, it's like, okay, now I want my shot. I already beat you once. And this time when I beat you, I'm taking your title. I think that works.
Again, I like it. Anything Paige and Swerve, when they're involved with each other, is probably this year my favorite parts of AEW television. They are just so genuine. It is so real. It brings me back to a happier day with AEW. They just embody everything that I sorely miss about the product. So good on both of those guys. And I'm excited to see how their paths cross for the remainder of the year. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that main event. Obviously, Bryan's career is on the line. I don't see him retiring in 2 weeks. And Swerve Strickland, we said this a lot about Cody and about Gunther. They don't, especially with Cody, he doesn't need to hold the championship for 365 days. Swerve doesn't need to be the champion for the entire year. He could drop it if the feud calls for it and it presents itself in a meaningful way for him to get it back in a meaningful way. I'm all for that. And so is Jason. So I like it. I really like that, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
and I agree with that. Although, had he lost the title at Forbidden Door, I think that would have been a slap in the face. So,
thank God.
Yeah, no, thank God he did for a lot of different reasons that you and I would know. Thank God he held on to that title for longer than that. But yes, I think him losing, and if it were me, honestly, I'd have him go over at Wembley. But I can see the vision if Tony Khan wants Bryan to have his moment. There's no shame in losing to Bryan Danielson. So it's not as if he's going to go in there, have a competitive match, maybe take most of the match, lose, and be, buried. And that's the end of Swerve. Swerve is about to headline the biggest AEW event of the year. Their second biggest show of all time. So I would say that's a pretty good spot for him to be in. And provided he gets the belt back in short order, then I don't think, there's any harm done.
Keeping with the AEW stuff before we get to some WWE talk here. Tony Khan has...
We got another bomb.
We got another bomb. Look, I'm all
Luis.
business tonight, and Jason is
Luis,
keeping an eye.
Luis.
Oh my God,
Gotta
Luis!
pay attention, man.
Luis! Oh my goodness, Luis! Thank you so much, brother. $100 super chat. He says the best show in the IWC. Real talk. I look forward to it every Tuesday. Luis, thank you so much, brother. Good to see you in Philly when I was out there. Hopefully you are well, and I appreciate all the support, Luis. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Tony Khan. He is no stranger to making special announcements, and he declares the company has the most important deals coming up, and they are very imminent.
Plural.
Yes,
Deals.
Deals. It is not just one deal. It is deals. AEW owner Tony Khan has...
Hold on. You remember... You're old enough. You remember. You remember the Crazy Eddie commercials?
No.
You don't?
Crazy Eddie? No.
You
No.
never heard of Crazy Eddie?
No.
Wow.
Enlighten me. Who's Crazy Eddie?
Crazy Eddie, I don't have his whole bio in front of me, but basically there used to be these commercials on, and he would be selling all kinds of like merch. I think it was like TVs and stuff, and I think he may have gone to jail for something, because I think he was a bit of a shark. But just like just these manic commercials of him just trying to like pitch stuff and sell stuff, and that's kind of what Tony Khan reminds me of. He's like kind of like a modern day Crazy Eddie, talking about big deals, great deals, But I'm surprised that you don't remember Crazy Eddie. You got to look him up. You could probably find stuff on YouTube.
I will look him up. Tony Khan is crazy in his own right, for sure. He does look like the type of guy that I'll watch TV at 2:00 in the morning and see him selling some random bullshit on some infomercial.
Yeah, you get a few White Claws in him, and I think he can morph into like a modern day Crazy Eddie.
Tony Khan is hyping up important deals. He says that, he said this on X. Thank you all for watching AEW as we approach indelible times in our history with AEW All in London weeks away. The most important announcements in AEW history are looming large now. This is coming off the heels of recent speculation for AEW's TV right negotiations with Warner Brothers Discovery. And dating back to May, Khan has been open about the reality that AEW is in the midst of negotiating its next TV rights deal. With its current home, AEW is with Warner Brothers Discovery, and that expires at the end of the year. Ultimately, the nature of the deal will be pivotal to AEW's future moving forward, and we don't know what the deal is going to mean for AEW, how much money is involved. We don't know anything about that, but I think we're all assuming that an announcement is coming around or at All In to go and be in correlation with their biggest show of the year. He says this: right now, it is the most important time ever in AEW. We're on the verge of the most important deal we'll ever make, this upcoming media rights deal, and it's been great. It's his favorite word, great. Working with Warner Brothers Discovery on the future. He tells Brian and Kenzie from Q101 and their morning show, this is transcribed by Fightful. For all these years, we've had so much great experience with Warner Brothers Discovery, and now under the leadership of David Zavlov, company for us, the connection, the things we've been able to do, I think it's getting stronger and stronger. Now, the comments seemingly indicate that AEW has been only negotiating with Warner Brothers Discovery regarding its next deal, despite the two sides having reportedly exited their exclusive negotiating window without an agreement. It's also worth noting that Tony Khan hasn't necessarily been a reliable narrator regarding AEW's ongoing negotiations, as it was in June that he stated that a renewal with Warner Brothers Discovery was in the red zone. AEW did, however, receive what appeared to be good news last week, with TNT announcing a new show called Overdrive featuring AEW talent. Time will tell whether Tony Khan's latest announcement lives up to the hype as the clock continues to tick on the company's next media rights deal. Jason, this came on the news of Warner this last week, down 42% year to date, and Wall Street responded negatively to a $9.1 billion loss. And David Zavlov, some people are actually calling for this man to be terminated and fired. I don't know if that will happen, but my question to you is, because I know we kind of dove into this on a couple of episodes ago of TNT. Tony Khan is making this out to be the only thing that matters in AEW right now. This Warner Brothers deal, I don't think they're negotiating with anybody else. We haven't heard them negotiate with anybody else. The one thing that I thought about when I seen this Warner news this week, it's not good. David Zavlov, is there a potential for him to be terminated? And if that is the case, and AEW has not struck a deal, what does that mean for AEW? Is that a potential for happening here for AEW?
I think it's unlikely. I don't think you could say it's not, possible, but everything that I have read about this, there's been a lot of stories lately, especially on CNBC and Bloomberg, about Zavlov, him being in the hot seat. Losing the NBA rights was a real black eye for them.
Yeah.
And they filed that lawsuit. They're going to fight them in court. I don't think anything is going to come from it as far as, bringing them back into the fold. I think they're done. And so he's, there's been things that have happened. There's been a lot of just massive layoffs at the company. Remember, they're like 43 billion still in debt. And so they're trying to cut costs and all sorts of things. But the NBA thing was a big blow. I just don't think it's likely that if a move is made, it's going to be made anytime soon where AEW would not already have their rights deal all wrapped up. So I do think we're going to get an announcement probably in a matter of weeks. But if anything is going to happen to Zavlov, and I still feel like it's unlikely, but if anything is going to happen to him, he's going to get replaced. Yeah, that would be a big deal in and of itself because Tony Khan has been negotiating with him directly. And obviously he's an AEW fan because, he brought them in and is likely going to be negotiating this deal to keep them. Anybody new in that spot, who knows? Remember what happened with Turner and WCW? Yeah. There were plenty of people who didn't like WCW. They didn't want wrestling. So you just never know what you're going to get. I think this will be all wrapped up before anything like that even happens. And it kind of reminds me of when they made that first deal. It was right before the COVID lockdowns. Had they waited a few months, I don't think AEW would have gotten a deal. And the wrestling landscape right now would look very different. I don't even know if there necessarily would be an AEW at this point. Or it might not be as big as it is. But they made that deal, I think, in January of 2020. And it was like a 3 or 4 year deal to bring Dynamite to, officially to, the Turner networks. And then 2 months later, the whole world shut down. So they got very lucky in that case. And
well,
it looks
AEW
they may get lucky here again.
AEW did get lucky too, but also I would say that Warner got lucky because what were we watching during that time period? Like wrestling was a constant every week. They didn't take off. Baseball took off. Basketball took off. There was every sport just fucking axed for the time being, but wrestling was always there. So I would say that works both ways.
It does. It works both ways. But what I'm saying is, they wouldn't have known that. So I don't think the deal would have been done in the first place, and they wouldn't have known how valuable wrestling was. Wrestling, in many ways, it's very evergreen, in that you could just plug it in, because it is round, year round, 52 weeks a year, maybe 51. I know WWE takes off around Christmas now, which they didn't always do before, but it's always there. It's always live. It's always on. And yeah, they would have had a big void in the schedule to fill if it weren't for wrestling and Dynamite from Daly's Place every week and WWE at the Performance Center. So yes, it works both ways. But my point being, they got very lucky then based on the timing. And I think as long as this deal is made imminently, then the timing will be advantageous to Tony Khan because things are very much up in the air right now as far as Zavlov and what the future is going to be like with this company. They're talking about a lot of other things too. They're talking about breaking up, Warner Brothers Discovery. There's talks about that maybe happening.
What are they doing? They're turning True TV into TNT Sports, correct?
Well, not exactly. So True TV, I think, will still exist, but there's, I think, a nighttime block that is going to be like the TNT Sports block. So I don't think the actual network is necessarily converting to TNT Sports.
It's gonna be like Adult Swim on Cartoon Network.
Basically, yeah. Or what was like Nick at Night or something, like a Nickelodeon, something like that. That's what I think that is. Yeah, I mean, like the $9 billion write-down, it's embarrassing because basically what that means is they realize that their cable TV assets are not worth nearly as much as they thought. That's basically what that means. And I think also that's just a product of, in many ways, what the cable landscape looks like these days, because there are fewer and fewer people who have cable television and they're cutting the cord and they're going to streaming. And so a lot of it has to do with that. And also, I think losing the NBA rights brings down the value, frankly, of their network properties. It just makes sense. I think at the time we even talked about like the carriage fees that they charge, and if they lose the NBA, they won't be able to charge as much. So a lot of that goes into it.
And that's them still having the rights to MLB playoffs, NHL hockey. Yeah. I mean that's great stuff, but
I think the Daytona 500 or NASCAR, maybe NASCAR. They have a lot of other sports properties. Yeah, Zavlov in a way kind of screwed himself because he's on the record as saying, and this is months ago, well, if we lose the NBA, like we'll be fine. We'll be okay. And yet in this lawsuit they filed, what they're trying to portray is that it's devastating to their business. When only months earlier at a conference, he's sitting there going, I think we'll be fine if we lose the NBA. We have all these other sports properties. So like, which is it? Right. That's why I don't know that case is necessarily going to go anywhere. Maybe they get money out of it if they can prove that, they're in the right. But again, that was a big blow to them. I do think that they're going to get a new deal. I do think they're going to get more money than what they're making now. There are people who think that they're not going to get a deal because ratings are down. And so, why would they want to re-sign AEW? But that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. AEW is still a very valuable asset to them. It's just a matter, I think, of how much. How much is it worth? How much are they willing to spend? Now that they won't be spending on the NBA, how much are they willing to spend? They're not going to give Tony Khan NBA money, but I do think they're going to get a healthy increase, and we're probably going to hear about a 3 to 4 year deal. And I think it's going to happen in the next few weeks, and that's exactly what they need. Tony Khan needs this deal done yesterday because this will guarantee the health of his company for the next several years. He needs that money. Without that money, there's going to be significant cuts. Yep. There's going to be people who lose their jobs. It's going to be a bloodbath. So he needs that money. And the other reason I can't wait for this announcement is so that we don't have to talk about this announcement anymore.
Yes.
Because I'm sick and tired of talking.
Tired of hearing about it on social media. I'm tired of hearing about people wanting AEW to die and to fail. Yes. It's like, I can't wait for them to go out of business. Give me a break. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and every story about Warner Brothers Discovery and this and that, like I will be the happiest man in the world outside of Tony Khan once this deal is finally announced. And also there's going to be a lot of people who I think are going to look very stupid for making comments that, they're going to get canceled and they're not going to get a deal and they're not going to get as much money. You're going to have a lot of people who are going to be looking very dumb, I think, when all is said and done.
I see. Let me get to this first before I wanted to say something else in regards to this. David Deering.
And Billy. We have Billy, too.
Oh, my goodness. We got two $100 super chats from Billy and David. Billy says, what's up, JD and Jason? I'm doing okay. Still healing after my knee injury or my new knee, but not missing a show. Did I hear Saraya? Also a Wembley moment as well. Anyway, love it. You guys, OTS for life. Yeah, back to laying down, resting. Thank you, Billy. I hope you are doing well in your recovery process. Yes, Saraya would like a Wembley moment. I don't know exactly where she fits in.
She had her Wembley moment.
Yes.
She won the title last year.
Yeah, that's enough. One is enough.
How many Wembley moments do you want?
It's Mariah's moment this year for the ladies.
That's right. That's right.
And David with a $100 super chat. Why not another bomb to keep the energy going? Thank you, JD and Solid Monster, for being a guiding light for me in sifting through the bullshit in the internet wrestling community. Proud to be a member of both of your channels. Keep doing what you do best. Cheers. Hashtag TNT. David, always great to see you, brother. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
Yes, I can't wait to stop talking about this either. But, for all the AEW detractors out there, we said this last week, AEW needs to be around to thrive. The business, for the business of pro wrestling to thrive, it's great for everybody involved. It's great for the pro wrestlers. It's great for us. It's great for the business. But AEW, you're probably looking at, to me, in the vicinity of $100 million per year over the next 4 or 5 years, depending on how many years they sign for. 125 to 150 million, maybe 175, because you got to offset what I'm about to say next. AEW is probably going to end up on Max. A lot of their special shows, their pay-per-views are going to end up on Max, and that's where they're going to put a lot of their focus, Jason. Warner Brothers is focused on getting its streaming service, Max, to turn a profit. Upcoming seasons like Last of Us, which was great. I don't know if you guys caught season 1. It was phenomenal. Great game, too. The White Lotus, that will be turned for increases in subscriber counts, along with franchise spinoffs such as The Penguin and Dune. On the film division side, Warner Brothers' presence at the box office has virtually been non-existent, with Furiosa, Trap, and Horizon and American Saga leaving little to zero desire to go watch these movies in theaters. Beetlejuice and the Joker, obviously, they're coming up as well, so that could be a nice change for Warner Brothers Discovery as far as turning a profit there. But, yeah, they're going to be on Max. I think for the content to be shifted to Max, I think they're going to be paid handsomely. And like you said, Jason, it's certainly going to be an increase, but at what price, we don't know. So it is going to be great to see AEW and their library. Ring of Honor might finally find a home. Things will be normalized, centralized. They will have one place to go find everything that you want AEW. Their PLEs or pay-per-views will be on there. And I think that's a great thing for fans.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing for us content creators as well. You know, me and you, we're going to be shelling out $50 for All In and All Out. I mean, that's a lot of money for back-to-back shows, you know, in a 2-week span. On Warner Brothers with Max, we don't have to worry about that type of thing. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to as a fan.
Yeah, one thing that people should be aware of, because I only first heard about this the other day, last few AEW pay-per-views I've actually bought on YouTube, and I haven't had any streaming issues. I was having nothing but issues with Bleacher Report. Yeah, I mean, fuck Bleacher Report. So YouTube has been a lot better, but I did see that Triller, finally, I don't know why it took this long, Triller is offering a package deal for All In and All Out, where you can get both shows, I want to say for maybe $84.95.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a savings, maybe $15, $20. For those who are interested in that, you can buy both shows in a bundle through Triller TV. So just something to be aware of.
Yeah, so they are definitely shifting over to more of the streaming focus. But yes, it will be done in the next 2 weeks, I feel. I think an announcement will be done at Wembley or around Wembley Stadium, All In. And I hope, like Jason said, we don't have to talk about this anymore and we can get back to basics, back to business, and start talking about how to fix AEW on TV, because the show on Wednesday, Jason, was fucking boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
but before you even get into that, just to go back to what Tony Khan said, again, it was plural. He said announcements. So we know about the media rights deal. But I was kind of thinking about that. Like, what could that be in reference to? And I think it's one of two things. I think it could be in reference to a separate announcement about Ring of Honor, because he has been teasing that Ring of Honor could end up on a Warner Brothers Discovery network. So it could be in reference to that. It also could be in reference to, because there was another report this week that, and I think from Fightful, that there had been talk about AEW running a stadium show here in this country. And there were a few different locations that were floated, one of which was in Texas. They're in Arlington right now doing a residency at the Esports Auditorium there. But I know that there is a stadium there. I want to say it's Globe Life Stadium.
Texas Rangers, yeah.
And so I think it fits about 40,000 or so. And that is the belief, that they're eyeing a stadium show there at Globe Life probably at some point in 2025. So I was wondering if maybe that could be another, potential announcement that he's referring to, that not only about the media rights stuff, but about the first stadium show here in this country that they may be running as soon as next year.
I think that would be the other announcement for sure. I didn't have that written here, but I'm glad you called that out. Obviously, it all goes hand in hand with the streaming, pay-per-views being on Max, Ring of Honor finally finding a home. That's all the TV. That's all incorporated into the TV deal. But I do think the second announcement would be that. And now that Jason mentioned that, I pulled up the Texas Rangers schedule for next year. They are at Globe Life up until August 13th, and then they're on the road from the 15th all the way to the 21st. So August 17th, I mean, they could do it on the 31st as well. They are at Oakland in California. So, August 31st.
Are we looking at, instead of Wembley, running a stadium show here in the States?
All In could be at Globe Life either on August 17th or August 31st. So those two dates are open. And I do think moving All In to the United States is a big enough deal for them to kind of refresh the brand, because I think being in the same spot for too long, it grows stagnant. I think moving it over here is a great thing. We haven't experienced that yet. I don't know how many people are going to go to Wembley and feel this show live in person. But, you know, then you're going to get the detractors. Oh, they went from 81,000 to 35,000. That's a downgrade. Let me tell you something, you fucking half-witted idiot. You put 35,000 people in any venue. I don't know how you could scoff at that and say, that's a bad night out. Give me a fucking break, man. That's a great deal for AEW. And if they fill that stadium, it is going to look fantastic.
Yeah. And keep in mind, we have recently talked about, probably on our own channels and also here on the show, about WWE bringing WrestleMania. They've had discussions with the London mayor about bringing WrestleMania there. And I mentioned that SummerSlam in 2026, we already know it's going to Minneapolis. We don't know where it's going in 2025, though. And so you cannot discount the possibility that, you know, maybe SummerSlam, even before they get WrestleMania, that SummerSlam could return. This would be the new Wembley. They ran the old Wembley. But could we see SummerSlam at Wembley next year? And if so, I think that would cannibalize the AEW show at Wembley.
Yeah.
So it would, you know, and again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it did, it would be smart for them to get out of there and to do a stadium show here instead of doing one at Wembley when they're just not nearly going to do as well as they've done in the past.
I wonder if Tony Khan has an inkling of a feeling that that's going to happen.
I think he might. You know, he's the one who's negotiating the deals for these shows, and if he thinks that there's a chance that might happen, even if there's just a chance that that might happen, I don't think he would want to go out there, you know, in a few weeks at All In and make the announcement about next year's show, because usually he announces it on that show a year in advance, and then after the fact, kind of just find out, oh shit, you know, WWE is running Wembley 3 weeks before, and he's already made the announcement. So this would be a way to get ahead of it if he thinks there's a chance that might happen, right? He could always return to Wembley the following year. But it's, again, the law of diminishing returns. I mean, if they run Wembley next year with or without WWE competition, you know, are they going to even be able to get 45,000 like they're at right now? I think it'll just continue to go down and down. I think it would be wise, frankly, to run a different venue.
And like I said last week, if you give me the option of All In and SummerSlam, I know which one I'm picking.
I know. Look, I think that most people would pick SummerSlam just because it's been so long since WWE has run SummerSlam or any major show, you know, over there in a stadium in the UK. And if you're just a wrestling fan, not just one or the other, which show are you going to pick if maybe you're a local and you've already been to the first two All In shows, right? You're more likely to want to go to SummerSlam. So, you know, it puts Tony Khan's back against the wall no matter what, if that's what they do. So this would be a way to get ahead of it and say, you know what, next year, we're going to be coming to Texas. We're going to run a stadium there. And I think for like baseball games, they could probably fit with like a minimal set from what I saw. They could probably fit in the range of what they have sold already for Wembley this year. Probably like mid-40s.
At Globe Life?
At Globe Life. I think in the 40 to 45 range. And so with the right card and with the right attraction, I think they can move most of those tickets. You know, again, first time for everything is always going to sell the best.
Yeah.
I do think the first time they do a stadium show here, I think it'll do well. I thought maybe the first time they did a stadium show here, it would be where the Jaguars play. And I guess where they had the first stadium stampede, but that's a much bigger. I think that's a much bigger stadium.
That's out of their league, I think.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. So a little bit ambitious.
I mean, they need to hire some good Hollywood writers if they want me to fucking be invested in something like that. Give me a break there. But as far as the AEW Dynamite show going into this year's All In, Jason, Dynamite on Wednesday, we saw a very boring show. I thought after great weeks of television, Blood and Guts was very good. I thought the shows that were before Blood and Guts were just tremendous television. And then all of a sudden I don't know what had happened. I don't know what went wrong. I think some people were citing travel delays, which, you know, there were travel delays, but Tony Khan came out on social media on Wednesday and said that everybody that was scheduled to be at the show is here, so it's going to go on as planned. Whatever they had planned was fucking boring. MJF and Kyle Fletcher was a great match. And I thought they went 20 minutes, obviously doing what they do best, pro wrestling. We got Will Ospreay and that feud continuing, which is, to me, the best thing on the entire Wembley show. And then it was bookended by a Bryan Danielson. And
I disagree with that.
What?
I disagree.
MJF and Will Ospreay is not the biggest thing on the show?
Tony Storm and Mariah May. You talking about best built match for that show? You're gonna say it's not Tony Storm and Mariah May?
In my opinion, I don't know, man. I don't know.
You could say the match itself will end up being better than Tony and Mariah, but this has been the best built story maybe in the history of this company.
Which one am I more invested in? I'm more invested in Ospreay and MJF. I guess that let me rephrase that.
All right, I'm more invested in Tony Storm and Mariah May.
That's fine. It's the best women's storyline they've done. Easy. It was Dynamite was bookended by Jarrett and Bryan Danielson. The rating was in the 620,000 range, and the show went in correlation with the rating. It was terrible. What was your biggest takeaway from the show, man? I don't know. There's really not much that we can really discuss coming out of Dynamite, but they dropped the fucking ball. And like I said on my Wednesday show, Mercedes' promo was fucking terrible, by the way, as well. Another squash match for Camille. That promo with Britt Baker was awful. Inexcusable is the word I used. 2 weeks before All In, this is the type of build we're getting, man. I said this is their WrestleMania for AEW. This is their biggest show of the year. To put on a show like that in the build for your WrestleMania is inexcusable. I don't know what the fuck went wrong.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. It was missing. It was lacking a certain energy. You wouldn't think watching it that you were 2 weeks away from your biggest show of the year.
No.
And the best parts of the show were the opener and the closing segment. The opening match was the best match on the night. You had Jeff Jarrett and Bryan Danielson in the main event. It was fun for what it was. I don't really need to see Jeff Jarrett main eventing Dynamite, but it was fun for what it was. Everything in between was just there. It just didn't jump out at me. It didn't get me any more excited for this pay-per-view than I was coming into the show. I was dumbfounded at the way that they announced that Britt Baker was unsuspended. They had Tony Schiavone make the announcement, and everybody got excited. And then he said, well, let's throw it to a video. She's via satellite. And then everybody booed. And I was like, I don't know who came up with the idea to announce it in that way, but that was pretty fucking dumb. So they were, obviously disappointed that she wasn't there physically. But, yeah, I mean, everything else was just kind of there. We had... And I had people saying to me, well, you didn't enjoy, Orange Cassidy and Ishii. What was the match again? It was the
Beast Mortis.
The Beast Mortos, right. But who?
Mortos, sorry.
You got to get it right. You got to get it right, JD. But what was it? It was Cassidy. Was it Ishii and then somebody else? Was that the team?
FTR?
Oh, maybe. Okay, you're right. You're right. I'm getting Ishii mixed up.
The conglomeration. They weren't, I guess they had travel issues. They couldn't get Mark Briscoe.
Yeah,
whatever.
And so I had people very upset, oh, it was a great match. It was a great match. I said, yeah, but I get great fucking matches on these shows every single week. Right. I'm looking to be, not just have a really good match. It was fine. But the way I described it was the majority of the show, it felt like I was watching a glorified episode of fucking Rampage or Collision.
Roosh was in there. I mean, we're not taking away anything from those guys. I mean, all those guys are great wrestlers.
No, it was fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but I'm watching it going, how is this supposed to get me excited for Wembley? It didn't. So, I could appreciate the fact that there were a lot of travel issues and maybe there were some people who couldn't make it. He had to reshuffle a few things. Maybe there was some segment we didn't get that we would have otherwise gotten. But yeah, I mean, it didn't light my world on fire. And actually I was, we had the sit down interview that Swerve did with Jim Ross. And, it was sad. It was sad to watch because I know, JR, he did not look good. No. He did not look good. He did not sound good. He's had a lot of health issues, a lot of challenges this year. He's been in and out of the hospital. And I mean, I'm glad that he was able to be there and to do the interview. Normally, I feel like that's the best role for him. That's where he thrives. But he sounded very weak. He looked very frail. I hope he's doing better. But yeah, it was sad to see him like that. More than anything else, that was my big takeaway from that segment. He just did not look great.
When was the last time we saw JR? He called Ospreay and Swerve, right?
And he was great.
Yeah,
he
really
actually had he had great energy, and he sounded like the JR of old. He kind of, every now and then, he might sound a little sluggish, but you'll get Jim Ross out there and he'll be like on his A game, and he was on his A game for that. And then maybe that's why it was so jarring to see him, because at his last appearance, he sounded great. And here it was like, oh man, you could tell he's been through hell recently.
Yeah, it was sad. JR is the greatest play-by-play of all time. I love him,
absolutely.
and hopefully he's on the road to recovery, whatever he's ailing from. But yeah, Dynamite was terrible. What did you think of Mercedes and Britt's segment? Are you excited about their feud? Because I know I posted a clip on social media that riled up the AEW fan base because I don't like something that appeared on their show. Listen, I'm going to let it play out. Obviously, all roads lead to Jamie Hayter coming back. I'm excited about that. Jason and I talked about that last week. Do you feel with the, the story that broke with MJF and Britt in the backstage altercation now that that's taken a little bit more of people's interest away from what's going on here? Did they drop the ball so far on this Mercedes and Britt feud? Because I'm not feeling the heat coming out of it. And I said in my my clip or my podcast last week with Jesse on Wednesday, I mean, they had a built-in feud here, Jason. I feel like with where Mercedes came from and what she was over there, coming on in over here, and Britt taking offense to that because she's an original and Mercedes is an outcast. I feel like they just had a ready-made just heater built in here, and I don't think they're really maximizing and kind of tapping into that. How do you feel about this?
I feel like it may have just peaked too early. And I think they may be in a situation now where they just don't know what to do to really keep it hot and keep it interesting. Because at the beginning, when Britt first came back, and remember they were in the ring together and they had the back and forth promo, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And, suspension aside, it just feels like it may have just peaked a little too early. And they didn't have enough ideas to keep things interesting until the 25th. And I think that's what we're seeing. And the suspension didn't help because they took her off TV for 2 weeks. But I think that honestly is probably the biggest part of it. It just kind of has fallen off a little bit. Doesn't mean they can't get back, get the train back on the tracks. They still have 2 weeks to go. But again, compare that to what they've been doing with Tony and Mariah, and it's like night and day.
Yeah.
And that Mercedes promo, the Camille stuff is fine. I mean, they're having her do squashes, and she beat 2 women the other night, and that's fine. But as far as like the promo, especially on Wednesday, that Mercedes did, I mean, you talk about ice cold reaction. Like nobody cared. Britt, I thought Britt's promo was pretty good. Up on the Tron, I thought that was good. But yeah, they've got to do something here, and they have a few weeks left to do it. I don't know if they do a contract signing segment. I don't know what they're going to come up with. I think Britt basically promised that she'll be back on the show this week. We'll see what they do. Because if it's up to me, and I have to assume Jamie Hayter is going to be back at the end of this, I wouldn't announce it. I would actually save that as a surprise.
Yes.
For Wembley. I wouldn't have her come out the week before and I'm going to be in Britt's corner. I think that would be a mistake. I think you save that. So with her not being around, what do? That's on Tony to try to keep things interesting. And, all it takes is one really hot segment. But boy, hot is not the word I would use to describe the crowd for these last couple of Mercedes promos. It has not been good.
Well, their answer to last week's debacle of a segment is Tony Khan booked Mercedes defending the TBS Championship against Hikaru Shida on Wednesday. Now, it should be a good match. I think both ladies are fantastic. But the logic gap just kind of stares at me, and I wouldn't be me if I didn't call it out. I'm curious to see what you think, Jason. AEW is where the best wrestle, and Tony Khan feels like great wrestling solves everything. It solves world hunger. It solves the discourse in the IWC. So Hikaru Shida, 3 weeks ago, whenever Blood and Guts was, she lost to Britt Baker. And she's getting a TBS championship match on Wednesday. Now, I know that if you ask an AEW fan, the TBS championship operates under open challenge rules. How many championships operate under open challenge?
I think every title in this company operates under open challenge.
Fucking ridiculous.
Why is it just the TBS title?
If there's one thing that an AEW fan has, man, they're ready with an excuse. Shida lost to Britt Baker, and that happened 2.5 weeks ago. Why is she getting a championship match? I question these things, and I'm the bad guy, but that's what's happening on Wednesday. So that is their natural progression. I guess we'll see what happens on Wednesday, but the match itself really doesn't make any sense. But get ready for a title match on Wednesday. I don't know.
I don't mind it. I don't. It's fine. I don't really have an issue with it. Does it make sense? Not really. If you look at it in terms of like what you just described. I know Shida had that match on Collision a few weeks ago with Sky Blue when Sky Blue got hurt, and I guess it was an automatic win for Shida. And Shida's great, so I think that she's a great opponent for Mercedes. And if that's what they, want to have Mercedes doing, I'll tell you what, I'd rather have Mercedes in the ring working than have her cut more promos like the one we saw on Wednesday. So
fair deal.
Maybe they're playing to what her strengths are here. And they're going to have her in the ring defending the title. I'm sure Britt will show up. Britt will get involved. Obviously, she's not going to lose the title. But yeah, I'm not angry about it. It's fine.
We'll see on Wednesday. Hopefully they got a much better show than what we got on this past Wednesday. But shifting gears over to WWE, let's talk about SmackDown. We'll get into Monday Night Raw in just a little bit. SmackDown, we saw the return of Roman Reigns. And man, oh man, did they get that OTC shit over already. Holy shit. I mean, OTC's being chanted in arenas, and they got merchandise flying off the shelves. The original Tribal Chief is back. Yeah, Reigns beat down the Bloodline. Obviously, it's going to be that way until Reigns secures some backup for himself. Solo, he is still in possession of the Ula Fala, but Reigns did get at least some revenge on the Tongans. And Roman Reigns was the reason why SmackDown did a tremendous rating on Friday night. How'd you feel about the return, Jason? Did you enjoy Reigns being back on SmackDown? And what did you make of him basically taking out 2/3 of the Bloodline on Friday night?
Basically, I mean, that's what he did. He single-handedly took out.
He didn't take out Solo yet. I'm trying to give him some credit.
Well, yeah, but he had him running scared. I mean, he didn't seem to have too much trouble doing it on his own. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, Tango Loa can't see. He's got one eye.
There's a lot of things that Tango Loa can't do, but. So yeah, he was super over. So you can't deny that. He didn't say anything. I thought we would maybe get a promo and he would address Solo, and they're going to save that. So he didn't speak, but he came out there, he kicked ass, and they're setting up the inevitable showdown between him and Solo Sikoa. So far so good. It looks like they're going to keep him off the Berlin card. I don't know when. I mean, the next PLE they have is Bad Blood. So to me, doing Roman and Solo at Bad Blood would make sense, unless they want Roman to run through, his enforcer first. And they're setting up maybe for a Roman, Jacob Fatu match before we ever get to Roman and Solo. My fear is that they see Roman and Solo as a WrestleMania match. And, I didn't have any interest in Cody and Solo at SummerSlam. And even though the story is there are a lot of other matches I'd rather see Roman in a WrestleMania than Solo Sikoa. And so if that's the plan here, I mean, yeah, hey, good luck to them, I guess, building to it. But you got plenty of, I guess, Samoans they could throw in his way before he ultimately gets to Solo Sikoa and then beats Solo. I mean, do you think that's what they're planning here? Do you think they're going to hold off on that first encounter until WrestleMania? I mean, do you want them to wait that long? I mean, that's still a ways off.
No, I don't know where they go. I'm glad I don't know where they go, because I like to be kept in the dark. I like a nice surprise. I would say that we do the first match with Reigns and Solo at Bad Blood. I think the name of the pay-per-view calls for it.
That's what I would say, yeah.
I think putting him in a WrestleMania match with Jacob Fatu, which I know you and I, that's the one we prefer. I think a lot of fans prefer that. I think if you do that, then you're kind of minimizing Solo Sikoa, and he's not really coming off as like the guy in the Bloodline. Jacob Fatu gets a match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. What the fuck does that mean for Solo Sikoa? He's a nothing. So I don't know where we go. I don't even know when we get the first stare down between Fatu and Roman. I know that was a big topic of discussion this week, and it was actually in the news today from PW Insider. This is from Fightful, a bunch of different places. Jacob Fatu supposedly is going to be back by the end of the month. And PW Insider is reporting that Fatu is expected to return to television at the end of August, although there were concerns amongst WWE talent that Fatu might have been genuinely injured. An internal WWE source dismissed these concerns. So they are actively trying to keep him off of television so that he doesn't have to look at Roman Reigns. So I know that was a big topic of discussion on both of our channels. I addressed it not once, but twice. I felt like that was the reason. And honestly, Jason, I feel like we saved that to right before Survivor Series. I think you wait on that because you're only going to get one of those moments. And if they're all going to be in War Games together, that's the one moment where I would have Fatu and Roman in the ring together, and then the stare down not too long before that to build hype for that match. I'm glad that they're waiting on it.
Yeah, I mean, the night of SummerSlam, my impression was, looking back at it, because I mean, he hit the table pretty hard, and I'm not convinced that he didn't get banged up. It didn't strike me as something that was terribly serious if he was in a walking boot and not on crutches. Was he wearing the walking boot just to sell? No, I think he probably got banged up that night. But if you look at the way it played out, it kept him out of the ring for, when Roman hit the ring, for that moment of who's he going to hit? Is he going to hit Solo? Is he going to hit Cody? It didn't feel like Fatu was meant to be a part of that moment anyway. And so, yeah, I think it's smart and it's fine to want to keep them apart as long as possible. It doesn't mean he didn't get banged up at the show, because PW Insider also was the ones reporting a few days ago that there was, a legitimate belief among people in the back that he did get hurt, not necessarily seriously. But yeah, keep them apart as long as you can. You can have that first confrontation, or have them put their hands on each other for the first time, maybe in War Games, if we get that Bloodline War Games match, and save a singles match for later on. I personally, unless they're going to do Rock and Roman next year, which would be the bigger match, I would rather get Roman and Jacob for the first time in a singles match at WrestleMania. To me, that's a WrestleMania match.
Yeah, me too. That's what I would do.
Yeah, without question.
Yeah, I don't know what that means for Solo, but yeah, I feel that's the right direction. Do I think WWE's going to do that? No, I think they'll probably go with what you originally stated. I think they will wait on Solo and Roman, which I think doing it a Bad Blood is not a bad idea, and then getting a potential maybe second or third match out of it. I think that may be overkill, but who knows what they're going to do. I think Fatu is the game-changing individual in this entire storyline, and I do think a match with Roman at WrestleMania does fit the bill for that show.
Yeah, and a little weird that, I guess they're going by Freebird rules, but still, It's weird to me that if the plan was to keep him out, like 24 hours earlier, why have him in the match then to win the tag team titles if that was the plan? But I guess the idea story-wise is that, according to Solo Sikoa, who I guess is also the general manager and just makes the rules now, anybody in the group can hold the tag team titles in any given moment, I guess including himself. So that was a little weird, though, to have Jacob in that match if that was the plan from the get-go.
Yeah, and that was in the news, and the tag team titles are going to be decided between the Street Profits, DIY. The winner of that match on Friday will be the number one contender to the Bloodline, whichever mixture of the Bloodline that will be. How you feeling about this? I think they're going to I think someone in one of these teams says that they want to go out and deliver a black and gold level tag team title contender match, which, I mean, I'm not opposed to. And then you got these two teams, which are rich with black and gold history. DIY probably wins this and gets their rematch against the Bloodline. And then how do you see that playing out there?
Probably not well for them unless, again, somebody gets involved and costs the Bloodline, which is possible. Roman Reigns shows up and ends up costing them Jimmy Uso. So I think it's going to take that in order for them to get those belts back, because they're certainly not going to beat the Bloodline straight up. So I do think it's very possible that somebody like a Jimmy or someone gets involved and costs them the belts. DIY gets them back. I could also see the Street Profits, though. I mean, I wouldn't count them out completely. I think they have a chance to win. And look, Angelo Dawkins was the one on Friday talking about how it's been 3 years. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it, but it's been 3 years, I guess, since they've been tag team champions before.
Which I heard that statistic, and I was genuinely shocked by that. I didn't think it was that long.
No, it doesn't feel like that at all. So I wouldn't count them out, but whoever it is, it almost doesn't even matter. I think either one of them. Yeah, I could see that maybe being the moment where Jimmy pops up. I was surprised not to see him at SummerSlam. But maybe that's the moment he pops up and we get a title change because of them. And that's what kind of kicks things off for the eventual Civil War.
I like it. The other title that is being decided, I think it should be anyway, at Berlin, because he's so over. LA Knight, new United States champion. We had Santos Escobar and Andrade delivering a banger on Friday. The rise of Andrade is a great thing to see. He's becoming slowly but surely the workhorse of Friday Night SmackDown. It's exactly where he needs to be because he's a fantastic pro wrestler. At the end of the match, Jason, we got Carmelo Hayes once again poking his nose in Andrade's business as they are continuing whatever they got going on. And Santos Escobar earns the right to wrestle LA Knight for the United States Championship. I said on Friday during my post show, this was the right decision. I have a feeling that Santos is a lot easier looking at Santos, him taking the pinfall against LA Knight, because if Andrade won that match and Andrade goes on to lose against LA Knight, that does Andrade no good. Keeping him in a feud with Carmelo Hayes as they battle over who's next in line is a great way to continue whatever they got going on. LA Knight beats Santos. I think Carmelo comes out of this Andrade feud getting the best of Andrade. He eventually, somewhere down the line later this year, beats LA Knight for the United States Championship. We cycle back to Andrade and Carmelo when the title's on the line, and Andrade gets his revenge over Carmelo and wins the United States Championship. I think that's the long-term vision here.
So LA Knight is left out in the cold.
Yeah.
I don't like it. You know how long it took for him to get to this point. He needs to have a little more time to shine, I think.
I'm not saying take
role.
it off him tomorrow. I mean, just like, give him a nice 3-4 months,
No, but then he should win it back, though. That's the whole thing. Like so if he loses it, he should win it back, because he's so over. And if there's no spot for him at the moment, in the world championship picture, then I think it's important for him to kind of maintain that spot. Yeah, even if he loses it, he chases, he gets it right back, a few months later. That's I think very important to try to keep him hot and keep him going, because for so long, we talked about how he's just sort of middling around, and when's he going to have a championship? He's still so over. And so I would hate for him to just kind of drop out of that and then have nothing to do, unless he gets drafted to the other show, and he goes after some titles on that show.
Come May or April, I could see him being drafted to Raw for sure.
Yeah, I could definitely see him moving over to the other brand. So yeah, I think it's important though to keep him in the hunt as far as the title goes. I could see that though. I could see Hayes, winning it, getting a little run with it, again maybe dropping it back to him. I don't see him dropping it though to Andrade though. I don't see it.
How you feeling about Andrade on SmackDown? You like what's going on with him or no?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's like you said, a very good pro wrestler. I think that he's still the Speed champion. I don't watch Speed, so
if I know. I mean, I don't know if this was a troll or not, but I think they may be having a women's Speed championship as well.
No, they are. Yeah, no, they're
I thought somebody was trolling me. I'm like, that's fucking terrible, man.
No, they have one. They have one for each.
What's the difference? We see 2-minute matches on Monday night every week.
Okay, well, that's I guess that's right in their wheelhouse then. So it kind of makes sense, right? If they're averaging 2 to 3 minutes per match.
Jade Cargill, man, she's gonna win a championship, first singles title, man. That's all she's doing.
That's it. She doesn't have to go more than 90 seconds. It's the perfect title for her. It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, I mean, Andrade, I think he's in a good spot right now. I still feel like he needs a manager. And I really wish they would have gone back to the pairing of him and Zelina. And there's still time, eventually they could kind of bring them back together. They just work so well together. And that could be babyface or heel. It works either way. But I just have, those great memories of them together when he had that NXT title run during, Black and Gold. And that was sort of peak Andrade for me. So I would love to see them work together again, but I think he would be better having someone in his corner and having a mouthpiece. But, for the time being, I think he's doing okay for himself on the show.
Yeah, I think he's great. Speaking of Andrade, I don't know if I saw this as well this week. Again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but Andrade versus Johnny Gargano at TakeOver Philadelphia is the highest rated WWE match on CageMatch.net.
So not just NXT, we're talking WWE.
All time.
All time. I don't necessarily agree with all time, but it's probably, if it's not number one, it's easily top 3 of my favorite NXT matches of all time. It means just a fucking fantastic match. It's some combination of that match, Sasha and Bayley in Brooklyn, and probably Cole and Gargano in New York.
Yeah.
Which I think might have been their first. But yeah, that the only thing that I would change about the Andrade and Gargano match, the people were so ready for Johnny to win that match.
They were.
And if you would have given us that finish of the babyface going over, he taps out and the Gargano escape, it would have been perfect. Perfect. But yeah, no, that was a fantastic match. But ranking that above, Brett and Austin at 13 or, I can't do that. The first Hell in a Cell.
It's tough.
It's tough. Again, I'm not taking anything away from what a great match it was. But when you factor in historical value, the match itself, the drama, people, and the names involved, you don't rank that match above Hell in a Cell 1, or the submission match, or Undertaker and Shawn Michaels or WrestleMania, or the greatest of great matches in the history of this company that stand the test of time.
Well, I mean, you're talking to somebody that grew up with those matches just like you did. I mean, look at what we're talking about, cage match, bro. I mean, all they do is fucking go over how many wrist locks they're in a wrestling match. Oh, how many submission holds did they do? Like, all right, that's the type of audience over there. But take nothing away from it. Great match, one of my favorite matches ever. But
fantastic. Greatest match in the history of WWE? No, it is not.
No. SmackDown was a lot better than it was in previous weeks. Hopefully, Reigns will be on Friday. They are in Orlando, so he will be on Friday. Maybe we get some sort of promo from Roman Reigns, what he's thinking upon return, what he thinks of Solo and this new bloodline. So we'll see what happens on Friday. And then obviously the tag team title number one contender match that is set for Friday as well between the Profits and DIY. Shifting over to Monday Night Raw, wasn't as good as the previous week, but it was still a very good show that forwarded a lot of different stories. We got the explanation from Dirty Dom as to why he chose Liv Morgan over Rhea Ripley.
Chicken tenders and video games. What it comes down to. Candies and video games.
Listen, I mean, he's a simple man. What more could you ask for? Dominic explained that he wants to be his own man. Rhea didn't allow him to be his own man. He didn't want to go around calling Rhea Ripley mommy anymore. Now he has someone in Liv who calls him daddy. I love the explanation, Jason. I wish it doesn't really matter when we got it. I'm glad we got one. I was expecting one the Monday after SummerSlam, but they waited a little bit to give us the explanation, which is fine. There's plenty of build between now and Berlin. But the explanation he gave, bro, it's a real-life explanation. It was simple. It was effective. It worked. They didn't need to overcomplicate anything. Rhea, she threw some nice, jabs at him in regards to how he performs in bed. All in all, I thought it was a great segment, man. I love the heat that's going on here between these four.
And you saw the reaction when she teased giving him the riptide.
Yes.
And Liv Morgan saved him at the last minute. And I think was it last week we were talking about, I said, like, at some point, I think they could work a match with Rhea and Dom, and it would get over. But if they don't, they could still, tease that spot in Berlin. I don't know if we'll get it in Berlin. They still might hold off on it. But when she eventually hits it, it's going to be a big moment.
That's a good point. I mean, it's easy to do it in a mixed tag team match because they're there. They're in the match together. But I mean, something like that would be much suited for a championship when Liv loses the championship, which I'm predicting she loses it at Bad Blood back to Rhea. I think in that match with interference, some nefarious means, Rhea just drops a riptide on him there, wins the championship. I think that's a nice setting for that to happen. Yeah, that works. That's why I say, like, they'll tease it again, and you can hold off on it until the match at Bad Blood. I'm sure he'll be at ringside. He'll try to get involved. And when he hits it, or when she hits it, the place is going to come unglued. They've done very well at making you kind of wait for these moments and really drawing them out and building them out. And as long as they don't drag it out for too long, I think that's smart. I think that's the way to go. You see the reactions the last 2 weeks in SummerSlam that the two people who got betrayed are two of the most over people on the brand. I mean, they're no longer in the Judgment Day, but Damian Priest is more over now than he's ever been. Rhea Ripley, more over now than she's ever been, because people are dying to see them get their hands on Finn Balor and Dominic. And so what they're doing is working, and hopefully they don't go in the direction that WrestleVotes suggested with this new name for the Judgment Day, which I'm sure you've seen. I thought that maybe Bruce Pritchard called up Vince McMahon and got one over on Triple H last night.
What is going on here? Between that and the pure
garbage collection?
Pure garbage. Yeah, pure trash. Street trash would be a better name.
That's what I called it last night.
Yeah. What was it? The pure nightmare.
The Pure Fusion Collection.
Oh, collection or collective?
Collective, whatever.
I'm thinking of the Nightmare Collective. Okay, Pure Nightmare. No, I'm fusing two of the worst factions of all time. Pure Fusion
Collective.
Okay. Why do I think of Gillette Fusion when I think of a razor when I hear that name?
They trademarked that. They trademarked that and just simply Pure Fusion, which is no better, but
Pure Garbage is more accurate.
Yeah, I call it Pure Garbage Collection. We get Garbage Collection over here every Monday and Friday.
But again, the rumor, and again, it's not confirmed, but I think WrestleVote said it's being discussed, of changing the Judgment Day to Street Trash.
What? Why? I mean, why would you want any group associated with the term trash? Even though it's a play on what Gunther said about Damian Priest, how does that benefit them?
I just never thought that we would be having a discussion about, potential stable names, and it would be something that I see on the street here in New York all the time. I mean, I look down at the ground, and what I'm looking at on the ground, one day that would be used to name a faction.
Yeah.
Let alone one of the top factions in this company. So hopefully smarter heads will prevail on that, and they will not do that, because I think that would be very dumb. And I don't know why anybody would want to be a part of a group called Street Trash.
I don't know. I'm glad Monday.
I'd rather be in the Job Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather be in 3MB.
I mean, there have been some bad names. Yeah. I mentioned the Core. Remember the Core?
Yes.
With 2 R's?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Apple. Remember Apple?
No, I don't want to remember.
You don't remember Apple?
No.
Santino had a group. It might have been for one night. He had a faction called Apple. And I don't know why I remember this, but yeah, there have been some bad ones, but I can't say that Street Trash is the way to go here.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad we went into Monday, came out of Monday without that being a thing. So thank God for that. Yes, Damian Priest is very much over. It goes to show you that people love the days of our lives. They love us. They love a good soap opera. They love a good reality TV show.
Jerry
with
Springer.
Trashy fucking, Love Island,
Jerry
affairs
Springer.
And sex everywhere.
MILF Manor.
Yeah, we're still with this MILF Manor.
MILF Manor. There you go.
Yeah, it's great. It's doing numbers. Liv is great. Dominic is fucking over. I love the heat that now Liv is getting. She's getting booed every time she lifts the microphone up to her mouth. Great. Excellent stuff between all four of them. Very much looking forward to it. The other big thing that happened on Monday night is Bronson Reed. He destroyed R-Truth in another savage-like attack to defy Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce did say he didn't have a microphone in front of him, but you heard him audibly saying, "You're fined, you're suspended, get out of here." He's pointing to the back, "Get out of here." Bronson Reed's all right, you want to fine and suspend me? I'm just going to go and do it again. I don't give a shit. Well, what else could be done to me?
I love how they rolled him. They moved him from one corner to the other corner. Like, he wasn't just going to climb down and go to the other side of the ring. Like, one of these weeks they will learn, like, roll them out of the ring. Like, get them out of the ring.
It was great. I wish it would have happened to The Miz instead of R-Truth, but I think The Miz may end up turning on R-Truth eventually. But Bronson Reed delivered, I think by my count, was six tsunamis. Yes.
Yep.
There was a shot last night. I know you called it out last week, Jason. I think you mentioned either Godzilla or King Kong. I think it was a little bit more in your face last night. Bronson Reed, before he actually went over to the other ring post, he stood on the second turnbuckle. He was doing the King Kong, beating his chest. That was a great fucking visual. So I don't know what they're doing with this. I don't know where they're going with this. I don't know when Rollins is coming back. Apparently Rollins is out with injury, and he is written off TV thanks to the attack last week. Meltzer mentioned, "I don't know how serious his injury is. All I know is I asked if those were storyline covers for injuries, and I was told they both were. But Seth is not in a bad situation. Seth is cleared. He could wrestle, but he's banged up," which I read this, and I talked about this last night. I don't know why he's injured. He had one match, unless he got injured in that match with Damian Priest and Money in the Bank, and then he refereed with Rollins being the referee against Punk McIntyre at SummerSlam. Did he get injured in the Money in the Bank match with Damian Priest, or did he just come back too early and didn't recover from the previous injuries?
Yeah, no, I don't think he got hurt in the match at all. I think it sounds to me like he came back too soon. There were a lot of people, myself included, who were surprised that he was back in time for Money in the Bank. I was expecting him to be out for a few more months.
I didn't expect him back all year.
No, I would have expected him back maybe in the fall. But yeah, it feels to me like he literally had one match. He's not working the live events or anything. He was a referee at SummerSlam, and he was moving around okay. But if he was that banged up that they want to give him more time off, then that tells me that he simply was not ready to come back. He was not, where he needed to be. And like you said, we don't know how long he'll be out for. I would suspect it's not going to be that long. But that's a PLE match. I don't want to see that headline on Monday Night Raw. I want to see that match of Bad Blood, because what they've been doing over the last couple of weeks, and it's only been 2 weeks, but in these 2 weeks, they've taken Bronson Reed from being just another guy on the roster who had no direction and no particular story to just an absolute menace and an absolute beast. And it took 2 weeks. And you know why it works? Because in the meantime, even though he hasn't been attached to like a major story, when we do see him, he's been slowly getting his finish over. So whenever he goes up to the top and hits the tsunami, pretty much always, even before the last 2 weeks, it got a reaction. And that's very old school in that when they would debut somebody, typically like in WWE in the past, they would wrestle squash matches for weeks or months and build to an eventual feud, but they would get their moves over. And I feel like that's in effect what's happened now. Like they've slowly, very quietly gotten that move over. Now he's finally used it on a major name and he killed him. And then he turned around this week and he murdered another victim, and it's getting him more over. Every time he climbs up to the top, it gets more and more of a reaction. I don't know what it says about the fans that you have these two big baby faces that people are supposed to love and care about in Rollins and R-Truth, right? Who doesn't like R-Truth? I think there were people chanting one more time.
To R-Truth, they're fucking sickos.
They wanted him to get squashed. So I don't know what that says about the fans, but it's getting over, and it's working.
There's definitely this audible buzz when he reaches the top rope.
This audible buzz the minute he climbs through the ropes before he even starts climbing to the top, because they know what's coming next, right? So now it's like they're making him a must-see attraction, where before he was just a guy. And that's a credit to whatever their plan is here. Hopefully they have a longer term plan for him. But you can't do this every week. I do think it'll get old at some points, and maybe suspend him for a week, skip a week, depending on when Rollins is ready to come back, maybe mid-September. And then you build to the match at Bad Blood and you get a PLE match out of it, Reed and Rollins on the undercard.
So Berlin's way too soon then, huh?
I think so. They described his injuries as broken ribs or injured ribs and internal injuries. And what's he going to come back in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I remember they Austin dropped Triple H upside down in a car once. Might have been Survivor Series. And I think Triple H was back on the show like a week later. Not a mark on him. They were like, oh, he had contusions. And he was back like nothing happened. And I was like, that really? So, if you have internal injuries and you do a major injury angle like that, you got to keep them out for at least a few weeks. And I think that takes them beyond Berlin. I don't know that they need it on the Berlin card. The card's already filling up even without it. So I think you can hold off until Bad Blood and do it there.
It's going to be interesting to see how they handle Bronson Reed when Rollins comes back. I feel like he should get a solid win over Rollins, but I don't know. I don't really trust them to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I would too, but I don't know. If they're going to be building Rollins up for a feud with CM Punk, they may not want to do that.
Yeah. So that was great last night. Excellent angle with R-Truth getting destroyed. Bronson Reed now, we don't know how long he will be suspended, so we'll find that out on Monday, I suppose. Randy Orton. He fired back against Gunther, got the first shot with an RKO, and Orton told him he wanted him to see the RKO coming. He did not want it to come out of nowhere. Gunther, just this smug, cocky, arrogant champion. He's a prick. He's got this prick-like sarcasm to him. He was basically calling Randy Orton his grandfather, his father, him a failure, a disappointment. And Orton obviously took offense to that. And we're getting that championship match at Berlin. Jason, you mentioned last week, I was reading and gathering my notes for the show, and I came across a statistic which goes in line with what you said last week. Randy Orton has gone winless in 40 straight PLEs. He hasn't won a pay-per-view match in 40 events.
Well, that has to be singles because he was on the winning team at War Games in Survivor Series. Okay. Yeah, I mean, what I was pointing out was just his record this year and how, he lost here and here and here and here. And at some point, there has to be a breaking point for him. I didn't know it went extended back 40 PLEs. He's basically a jobber at this point. I mean, if you think about it.
A jobber with a brand new 5-year contract extension.
Yes. He's not, I guess that locks him down until he's 49. Which is not surprising. I mean, he admitted that the last time he negotiated his last deal, he used AEW or the idea of him maybe negotiating with AEW, he used it as leverage. I think he even thanked Tony Khan.
He did.
Like in a tweet. So, yeah, I mean, Orton's going to be a lifer in that company. But no, he's a made guy. Anybody else who's going to lose 40 straight PLEs, we're going to be talking about how they're buried, they're done, that's it. Orton's a made guy, so I guess, for him it doesn't matter. One RKO and everybody goes nuts. He turns heel. I could see him beating Cody, winning the WWE title. People aren't going to remember that he lost 40. That's
40.
Surprising.
Yeah.
40 straight
I've
PLEs.
seen it on SE Scoops. It's right on their homepage, yeah.
That's So what would have been the last WrestleMania match?
Let me see if I could pull up the article. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he was a part of the winning War Games match, but
yeah. So I'm just assuming they're referring to singles matches.
Where is it? I know I seen it today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it. Oh man, now I can't find it, motherfucker. There it is. Orton aims to snap a 40-month streak. I'm sorry, 40-month streak at Bash in Berlin.
Okay, well, see, that just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like,
a victory will also see Orton win his first singles match at a PLE in 40 months. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Helps if I
18
fucking
of
read.
those. Yeah, 18 of those he was out injured. So there is that.
But still, it goes in line with what you said. I mean, he hasn't won a fucking major match in 40 months. So
yeah. No, it's been, like I said, since the beginning of the year, and he's been involved in a match on every PLE except SummerSlam, and he has lost in every single one of those matches, and then got killed by the Bloodline trying to defend his friend. So, yeah, I mean, I could see where this is headed. Once this stuff with Cody and KO plays out, Orton's going to lose to Gunther. It's going to be another loss in Berlin. He's not winning that match. And then, not long after, you got Bad Blood coming up. I mean, again, there's got to be a breaking point for this guy. And that's when you get Cody and Randy, and the story just writes itself. There's just a wealth of history there between those two. And as I mentioned last week, Cody Rhodes does not need to be the champion straight through until WrestleMania unless The Rock wants it to be that way. I think you can have Randy take the title from him and then have Cody chase to get it back.
Well,
and if they're not doing Cody and Rock at Mania, you could do Orton and Cody at Mania when Cody wins the belt back and save the inevitable John Cena Randy Orton match for Cena's last match in December instead of doing it at WrestleMania.
You could do that. I know the title of the show tonight and the thumbnail appropriate is about Cody Rhodes, and I specifically saved that for this discussion because I could have easily just lumped that into the SmackDown discussion. Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes are definitely on a collision course at some point. We don't know when. We don't know how. We don't know when Orton turns heel, how he turns heel. We have talked about that last week. Jason brought up an idea. I brought up an idea. Jason was a little bit more simplified, and it goes along with Randy Orton not winning a PLE match, singles match in 40 months. So he's wrestling Gunther. He will lose. He will not win the world championship. And from that point, it's all going to correlate, Jason, with what happened on SmackDown Friday with Cody Rhodes giving a championship match to Kevin Owens at Bash in Berlin. Kevin Owens did not want the title match. He even said so because he doesn't have the win-loss record to warrant the title match. And I'm glad that he said that because that's the way a lot of people should really be going about a situation like that. So what they did was KO went to the back because Cody was going to the back to talk to Nick Aldis. They kind of lured him in to troll him, KO didn't want it. Cody said, all right, I'm going to go back to talk business with Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis says, well, you know what? I was thinking about giving the title match to Roman Reigns. And KO just got obsessed with Roman. Well, how could you give it to Roman? Roman cheated over 1,300 days. He's got the bloodline backing him up. You can go in the locker room and find anybody else more worthy of a championship match, besides Roman Reigns. And then Nick Aldis is like smirking. Yeah, I'm looking at him. It's you. So he calmed down. He understood. He accepted it. And we got that match. The discussion is coming out of Friday, and I seen a clip from Sam Roberts. I'm not the biggest Sam Roberts guy, but he did make a very topical point here, and it goes along with what a lot of the fans are thinking coming out of Friday. Is Cody Rhodes a predictable champion? Because if you look back at what we've seen coming out of WrestleMania, the feud with AJ was fine. It was 2 great matches. Then we got the match with Logan Paul. Fine. But AJ, who's better? Who's better in ring, Cody or AJ? It was about who's better, who's the better wrestler. And then Logan Paul, oh, you're great at what you do, but I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm the better guy, blah, blah, blah. Now we go into Kevin Owens, and it's more of the same predictable outcome for Cody Rhodes as WWE Champion. Now, Kevin Owens has a little bit more built-in story here because he's been backing Cody with the bloodline. Cody just wants to do him a favor, but he's a good guy. He's doing Kevin Owens a favor that he doesn't really have to do. He's a fighting champion. Not in the sense that AEW is making Swerve a fighting champion, but by having him fight every fucking week. But Cody's a fighting champion. He wants to give back. He wants to be the good guy. Is it too predictable for Cody Rhodes so far coming out of WrestleMania? Or do you think fans are getting a little impatient because the real story is going to begin when this match is over? Because I do feel like there's a direct link coming out of this between Cody and Randy. Or are fans just impatient here? What's going on?
I think it's a combination of different things. So there's a few things I want to say. Before I get into that, to go back to the explanation of why Kevin Owens is getting a championship match and why he would turn down a championship match. And I tweeted about this the other day. Apparently, Dave Meltzer did not understand this. This made no sense to him. Why would Kevin Owens turn down a championship?
Wait. He had a problem with this?
Yeah, he couldn't understand it. He said it's not realistic. It doesn't make any sense. Why would he turn down a championship match? Everybody should want the championship, and why would anybody say no to a title shot that was offered to them? And this blew my mind because I thought I was living on a different fucking planet. And then there were even, and thankfully the majority of the people who responded to me were in agreement. But there were some people who said, no, it's stupid. Why would he say no to a title shot? And again, I just felt like I was living in like a weird kind of the Jericho vortex, maybe. It just didn't make sense. It's very simple. It actually makes total sense because Kevin Owens does not want to be a charity case. Kevin Owens is also a babyface. Now, if he was a heel, then he probably wouldn't care. And of course he would say, sure, yeah, I want that title shot. But he's a babyface. He has honor. He has pride. He doesn't want, he doesn't want to feel like, oh, well, Cody feels sorry for me because, he feels like I have a terrible win-loss record, which he brought up. He says, look, my win-loss record isn't that great. I don't deserve it. But it seemed pretty from like a character explanation perspective and the KO character as he is right now, it made all the sense in the world to me. I don't know why it wouldn't have made sense to Dave. I don't know why some people, responded and agreed with him and said, no, it doesn't make any sense. I thought it made total sense. And I appreciate the fact that they actually had Kevin Owens. Basically, he explained why it made sense. And Cody, for his part, why would Cody give him a shot? Because this guy has watched Cody's back now. He stepped in with Randy and has watched his back now for months. He's been in the trenches with him. He's put his body on the line for him. So I don't really understand what there isn't to. I mean, maybe this is just people who...
Did they watch the show in a different fucking language?
Either that, or they just check their brain at the door when they watch pro wrestling and they don't put a lot of forethought into it. Maybe they're just not used to it because for so many years in WWE, nothing made any fucking sense. And so now when things actually do make sense, they just, it just boggles their mind. They can't wrap their head around it. So I like it. I think the explanation makes total sense to me. Is Cody's run predictable? I'm not even sure what that means. What do you even mean when you say predictable? Is it predictable that what Cody would... There's
no, I guess, everybody he's been in the ring with, it's almost been like, all right, he's winning that match before we get to the match. And there hasn't really been any story from where he's fighting from behind or his title is in jeopardy or him losing the title's in jeopardy.
Okay, but does anybody honestly believe that Cody was in jeopardy of losing this championship before SummerSlam?
No.
Like, SummerSlam would have been the earliest that I would have bought into the idea that Cody might lose the title. And then when I saw that he was wrestling Solo Sikoa, I knew he wasn't losing the title. So that, I don't know that you would blame Cody for that, because it took 2 years for him to tell this story and win the title. Of course, they're going to keep the belt on him for a while. And anybody that they were going to put him in the ring with was probably going to lose. So yes, I guess in that way you could say that it was predictable, but I don't blame Cody for that. I don't think it means Cody is a failure as a champion. What the real failure is here, you could say, is Triple H's inability to create top heels for him to work with on the SmackDown brand. That's part of why they're in the rut they're in, if you look at it as a rut, is that there aren't enough heels at the top of the brand right now. That's why we're talking about the possibility of Kevin Owens going heel or Randy Orton going heel. Who are the top heels on SmackDown right now? Solo Sikoa, who he just beat. Jacob Fatu, who's not ready for that spot. You're not going to put him in a championship match yet. So who are the other top heels on the SmackDown brand right now?
Can't even think of anybody that's in that same stratosphere, honestly. Carmelo Hayes? Nobody.
No, Carmelo Hayes.
I
No.
mean, I'm naming heels. There's nobody.
No, I know, but I'm saying that no one's ready for that spot. There is no other top heel right now on the brand. I don't blame Cody for that. You want to blame somebody, blame Triple H, because there just aren't enough heels for him to work with in a believable way. That's why we're talking about Randy Orton probably going heel soon. But I also think part of it may be that they are kind of buying time, whether it's Cody and Rock, Cody getting back involved again in the bloodline stuff, which he already did basically at SummerSlam, or Cody and Randy. That's, I think, what they're waiting for. Randy's story has been playing out over this entire year. He's losing and losing and losing. And now when he loses again, I think that's when he's going to snap. And they know that's the key feud for Cody. So what do we do with Cody in the meantime? Well, if they had better heels, it would probably be more interesting, but they don't. How can you call that a failure on Cody's part? It might make the run a little less interesting for some people, but this idea that, oh, Cody Rhodes has been a failure as WWE Champion. I'm not going to tell you that this run is lighting the world on fire, but no, I would not call him a failure. He has been a perfectly, you want to say predictable champion? Sure.
Well,
he's been a perfectly
failure,
fine champion.
To use failure is a strong word. I mean,
yeah,
look at the attendance, look at the merch. I mean, look at his Fanatics Fest. They keep pushing this Fanatics Fest. Everybody there is like a major sports athlete. Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley sold out quicker than any other athlete in that building on that weekend. I mean, so how do you deem that a failure?
Yeah, no, he was the first one to sell out. And you want to factor in all those other things. You could factor in merch. He's always at or near the top of the merch charts. I mean, by every metric, Cody Rhodes has been a very successful, very lucrative champion so far for this company. He just hasn't had that one killer feud since he pinned Roman Reigns. AJ Styles, they had great matches. As a feud, I liked it. I didn't hate it.
Fine,
I liked it. I liked the fake retirement tease from AJ. I thought that was fun. Logan Paul was just a body to put in there with him in Saudi Arabia. I didn't care about the feud, and everybody knew Logan was losing, and he did, of course. So that didn't do anything for me. Cody and Solo didn't do anything for me. I didn't care about it. That's not the SummerSlam match I wanted to see. The match I wanted to see is the match I think we are soon going to get. This story with KO, by the way, got off to me anyway, kind of an interesting start, where they had to trick him basically into kind of accept. I guess he didn't really accept it, but he's getting a title match in Berlin. I don't know if they're going to turn Kevin Owens or not. I don't think you have to. I don't think he and Randy both have to turn. But let's let this story play out and see. Again, people were saying this is stupid. This doesn't make any sense. Why would Owens even get a title shot? Because, as he said, he's had a terrible win-loss record this year. But I think they kind of answered the key questions on Friday. And they don't have a ranking system anyway, so it's not like we can yell at them for not adhering to the rankings. There are no rankings. But they're telling a story here. It's been 1 week. It hasn't even been a full week. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see where things go with Owens and Cody, right? There's a story there to be told. So that's how I look at it. It's been a little, underwhelming. I guess you could say it's been a little bit underwhelming because there haven't been any great heels for him to really work with. But that's going to change very soon, and I think people are going to have a very different opinion about his run going forward. Cody Rhodes is not a failure as a champion. I think that's just being ridiculous. I think that probably is certain fans being very impatient, but I think that's just absolutely wrong. He is not a failure by any metric. He's not a failure, and I don't know how you could say that.
I don't know how anybody doesn't really pick up on the fact as well that Kevin Owens is getting a championship match. Randy's getting a championship match against Gunther. He's not going to beat Gunther like we both said. What do you think Randy's going to do after he loses to Gunther? He's going to go right back to SmackDown. You don't think Randy Orton is going to look at that Cody Rhodes giving Kevin Owens situation and say, well, what about me? We forgot about me? You're going to give me a title match too? I was right there with KO helping you. That's what's going to build the heel turn. It's going to be a slow burn, and you're going to get it. You don't think Randy's going to call that out? You got to be patient. It's not the end of the world. It's been lackluster, but he's been putting on great matches. He's wrestling his ass off. He's, like Solomonster said, every fucking metric in the book. He's a top guy, a guy. What else do you want from him? Just be patient. I know it sucks. I know everybody wants instant gratification, but that Randy versus Cody feud is going to fucking make up for all the disappointment that you guys are feeling in the last 3 months.
Yeah. I mean, look, that feud, that first RKO to Cody Rhodes, man, it's going to hit like crack.
Yeah.
Okay, when it happens, it's going to be a big deal, and everybody's going to be into it. And this is the match. Like, even before Cody won the title, people were fantasy booking a Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton feud. Playing off their history from Legacy. It goes back years and years. You talk about, like, in the long game here, right? I'm sure they're going to draw on their history together. And that's what people have been waiting for. And I do feel like they have been just kind of, killing time and waiting until the right moment, until Randy's story has played itself out enough where the heel turn comes and then we get the feud. And probably the first match, I would guess, at Bad Blood.
Yeah.
And Randy may well win the title. If it were me.
And we discussed it last week. I
take
take it off him too.
Yeah. I think it's the right thing to do. And that also, I think, would cut off this argument of, it's so predictable because Cody keeps beating everybody. Well, okay. Randy beats him, and now Cody has to get the belt back. Right? That would be more interesting than Cody just beating everybody and holding the title for a year.
And I'm very interested to see how Randy, Cody, Triple H, and whoever else is involved will sit down and build out this feud for Cody to chase that championship again and take it off Randy. I think it's going to be a great feud. Let's give it some time.
Yeah, it's like the idea that, well, did they not have a plan for Cody coming out of WrestleMania? Did they not have a plan for Cody? Cody's their guy. They trusted Cody enough to be the one to beat Roman Reigns, who was unbeatable for 3.5 years. You think they had no plan for Cody Rhodes? Like, the next day they woke up and said, gee, shit, what do we do now? Like,
they might not have had a plan immediately, but they have a plan.
No, but they had some sketched out plan in their mind for where they were going to go with him.
The better statement would be, why didn't they have a better plan for the fucking draft to put on SmackDown some bigger heels for him to work with? That should be the statement.
Yeah, and like I said, you can absolutely blame Triple H for that. Yeah. That's a failing on his part. They should have done a better job with that. Absolutely. But that does not make Cody Rhodes a failure as the WWE Champion.
Absolutely not. And we got one more story before we get into your super chats, guys. I appreciate you all joining us tonight. We had upwards of 2,300 people in here, and
we
you guys
broke the likes goal.
Oh yeah, we got 853 likes.
750?
750 was the goal. I'd love to see 1,000 if you guys can get 1,000.
Yeah, you guys can do it. Come on, you guys. I got faith in you.
Continue to get those super chats in. We're gonna talk to you guys in just a little bit, but one more story here coming out of WWE, and it is in regards to Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley is no longer with the WWE, and he is officially a free agent. So he was recently interviewed by the Laboratory with Plaz. Never heard of it, but he was interviewed. Fightful also reported about Bobby Lashley's contract would be up this past weekend. So he said, Bobby Lashley, on this podcast in regards to his time away from WWE, where he was this year, and then he was actually quoted giving us the comparison between Vince McMahon and Paul Levesque, what it's like to work for both guys and what the differences are. He says, I can
think of one difference.
Yes. We don't need to mention that here.
I won't paint that picture for you.
No. First of all, I'll say this in regards to Bobby Lashley, why he was out so long. He says, I can tell you this. I had surgery. A little boo-boo happened in France during the match. Just a freak accident. After that, I had my surgery. They told me I wasn't supposed to be back for like 6 months. That sounds like a little bit more than just a little boo-boo. 6 weeks, I had the brace off. I'm working out. My physical therapist was like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. I said, I'm different. I'm different, bro. I'm working out. I'm lifting. I don't even think I'm 2 months out of surgery, and I'm hitting it pretty hard. I think I'll be ready and clear in less than a month. At that time, we'll see what happens. So I guess that kind of dumbs down the illusion. I would assume that they didn't really have much for Bobby Lashley to do anyway, but he was out for a good chunk of time. So it's not like, oh man, they failed Bobby Lashley on creative. He wasn't ready to come back and wrestle. So let's slow the brakes on that. But I'm sure the lack of creative was very palpable in WWE regarding to Bobby Lashley. So that's the reason why he was out. And then he compares Vince McMahon and Triple H. He said, if I say the wrong thing right now, and he laughs, I had a connection with Vince. Vince understood me. Vince was big on the show. He looked at people that were stars, and he saw that in me. And there were a lot of little nuggets that Vince would give me all the way throughout my career and tell me different things. So Vince just looked at me, and he was like, I can tell Bobby worked his ass off. I can send him anywhere around the country to represent WWE, the brand. He just looked at me like a star. So I like Vince in this comparison. I haven't really had too much of a connection with Hunter. Hunter has his guys, and I've tried to, but we haven't really worked enough to get to know each other. And that's all he said there. That was in context to the podcast interview here with the laboratory. Jason, the one thing that jumps off the page here to me is, it says Triple H has his guys, which is true. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Adam Cole when he was there, whoever else is a Triple H guy. But wasn't Bobby Lashley a Vince McMahon guy? Wasn't he a Vince McMahon guy?
Well, I mean, he was a Vince McMahon guy in that,
So he would know.
Well, know what?
That wrestling promoters have their guys. It's just the landscape. It's like,
yeah, but
it shouldn't be an anomaly.
No, I don't think
or
he's
abnormal.
I don't think it's him saying that it's an abnormal thing. I think it's him saying that he was not one of Hunter's guys, and now Hunter's the one in charge. And so he just didn't have that relationship with him. And it reminds me of something that Swerve Strickland said after he just joined AEW. And he kind of said a very similar thing where when he was in NXT, he never had the greatest relationship with Triple H. I think he had a better relationship maybe with Shawn Michaels, or Shawn Michaels was maybe better to him in some way. But, he said in NXT he would see guys yucking it up backstage with Triple H, whether it was Finn Balor or Tommaso Ciampa. And he wanted to have that with him, but he just didn't. He just didn't have that same rapport with him. And here we're hearing a similar thing from Bobby Lashley, but and he didn't give the indication here in this interview, but I would be curious. I mean, did he ever sit in a room with Triple H and kind of talk about this? And did they ever have conversations about, kind of starting fresh and getting to know each other better, or, him communicating to him some of the things that, maybe he spoke to Vince about and how they can have a better relationship? Or was it just a case where he was pitching ideas, they fell on deaf ears, he got frustrated and decided to leave? I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, they always say that Triple H is much more accessible than Vince McMahon was. Why wasn't there a sit down?
Yeah, and maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't know. He's not out there making comments like MVP. MVP has just gone scorched earth basically on Triple H. And I'm sure we'll get that shoot interview one of these days. But he just portrayed it, the way I read it, the way I kind of heard it is, through his comments here, is that he just wasn't one of Triple H's guys and didn't feel like he was either being protected or that the creative was there for him. He saw the writing on the wall. He wasn't going to go any higher than he was. And he was like, I'm going to go. And it's as simple as that. But again, if they didn't have that kind of meeting or conversation, maybe they could have worked together. Maybe they could have put that aside and, forged that relationship. I don't know if the attempt was made. I don't know. And I'm sure Triple H does have his guys. You could tell who his guys are. By the way, I would throw, we're just talking guys, but I would throw someone like Nia Jackson there. He was the one who brought her back. He was the one who was still in charge of NXT when she was there initially and had her run in NXT. And, Nia has had a pretty good year. She won Queen of the Ring. She's the women's champion now. I would consider her to be a Triple H gal. So you could put her on the list. But you could just tell. You could tell who those people are. Doesn't mean that everybody else on the roster is going to get buried or left out in the cold. It just means that he's got his guys that he trusts and that he knows, and so he can rely on them and believe in them. Lashley, I guess, just felt like he was left out. I do wonder, he didn't get into it here, but again, we've heard so much from MVP about Triple H saying no to reforming the Hurt Business. And we know Bobby also probably wanted to reform the Hurt Business. Does it really just go back to that? That Triple H, just for whatever reason, had no interest in reforming this group, and they were both just completely turned off and pissed off by that, and we're counting down the days. Is it just that simple? I don't know.
I mean, we don't know what those real discussions are either. I mean, you look at the landscape of stables in WWE. It's the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. There's no room for anybody else. They would have ended up like the fucking Final Testament. So if you're Bobby Lashley, do you want that? I mean, obviously they thought of the Hurt Business a lot more than just middle of the road feud with the Final Testament. They wanted to be like the Bloodline. They wanted to be like the Judgment Day. It wasn't going to end up being that way. So you got to take what you can get. And maybe it's best that they didn't go back to the Hurt Business and bring it back. Why would you want that? Who knows? I don't know.
It's just weird to me how there were teases that they might be reforming. There were like a few backstage segments where they wanted you to think, oh, wait, maybe there's something going on here. And then there was no follow-up. And that was always very weird to me. Like they thought about doing it and then they got cold feet and changed their mind. So one of these days, I'd love to know the story behind that. And
something happened there.
Something definitely went down. And I think that plays more than just, we didn't have that relationship like he has with other people. I think that played more of a role in this than maybe he's letting on.
Yeah.
Especially just based on MVP's comments, because he's just so adamant. Like he said, no, he doesn't want it. And, he's a liar. And there's stuff that went down that I think we're just not aware of that will come out that will probably paint a picture that makes more sense. But for Lashley, look, he won the WWE Championship under Vince. He was not going to win the WWE title. He was not going to be in the hunt anytime soon. That much was obvious. So if he wants to have a bigger role, then he can go somewhere else and probably have a bigger role than he would have had on SmackDown. That could be TNA. That could be AEW. Although AEW, again, what spot is he going to end up in? Probably the same spot everybody ultimately ends up in. He'll just kind of be on the show from time to time, and I don't even know if he'll be happy there. But I like Lashley. I hope that wherever he lands, he finds success. He still looks like $1 million. He was still super over, in WWE. They tried to turn him heel. It didn't work. People didn't want to boo him. So there's still value in him. But it just clearly he was not a priority for Triple H, and it just wasn't going to work.
Yes, Triple H is very blatant on who he wants to make into a Paul Levesque guy or gal. He tweeted out about Braun Breaker today, a picture of them together backstage after Monday Night Raw last night. He said, simply in the tweet, the future. Yeah, thanks, Paul. We know that. Bianca, yes, I know. Gunther, he's got his people. Everybody has their people. I have my people. Jason has his people.
Yeah. I love my people. You are all my people.
You are all our people, yes. Thank you. 2,300 people in here. We're going to get into your super chats. Thank you for a great episode 61. Hopefully we brought what you wanted tonight, and we are going to get into your guys' comments now. Please follow us on social media. Everything you need is linked down below in the description of this very video. YouTube, Twitter, social media, all that down below. So go follow Jason and myself wherever you may be. Please hit that thumbs up. We are 89 likes away from 1,000. So if we can do that, that would really be great. And make sure you guys go get your t-shirts, man. Once again, bonfire.com is the official home of Tuesday Night Titans. Go get your TNT merch, now available. Let's get into the super chats, which we had a couple of major bombs here tonight. Thank you guys for all the love. VIPs. OTS Tribal Queen, thank you for the re-up and membership. David Thiering with 3 months. I saw on your social media, JD, that you are bringing some new members home this week and into your cat family. Just wanted to say congratulations. Hashtag TNT, yes. I actually got tipped off about a home in the Bronx that took in a calico mother of 1 year and her 4 kittens, and they need a foster home. And I looked at the listing. I immediately cried. And this little gal, his name is Sassy, 1 year old. She looks so much like Bacardi. So I applied and I got approved, and I'm bringing them home this weekend. So yes.
That's great. That's greght.
Thank you.
It's almost, it's kind of eerie, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I believe in that type of shit. I think it's like a sign from the other side. So it's like I'm taking advantage of it. Like if I can find them a great home, then I want to be a part of that. So. Thank you, David. I appreciate that, brother. Drew with the 24 months, 1 year as a VIP. Love my OTS family and everything you've accomplished, JD. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Show me some birthday love. It's this Friday. Hashtag 37th birthday. Drew, party it up, bro. Party it up. Make sure you have more than one cold beverage this weekend.
Yeah. Have a Jack and Coke on me.
There you go. Gold Standard with a $5 super chat. When will AEW stop making excuses about why their ratings are terrible? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter if they're going to get a 5-year, 100 plus per year from Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yeah. I think once that announcement is made, I don't think they're going to care what people think.
Hopefully they do fix the problems that are existing. I think they have room to grow for sure. But yeah, they're going to get that bag. Donnie with a $5 super chat. Priest beating Dom while Liv hung on his back was main character energy. Yes. Yes, he caught him in a choke slam coming off the top rope while he was hugging Rhea Ripley. That was excellent last night.
Well, you know what? Also, that camera shot from behind Braun when he fucking lawn darted Sammy over the barricade into the wall. Oh my God, it looked like he killed him.
We forgot to talk about that. That was in the notes. I guess it was predictable, but I thought that match was great last night. I could have honestly seen them go another 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, they went 17, so I mean they went a good amount of time. That's more than triple what they had at SummerSlam. But yeah, even another 5 minutes I think would have been great. But it's exactly what it needed to be. I mean, he got to work with one of the best, and Sammy put him over, and now Braun's going to be on his way, and Sammy can move on. I guess he and Jay are going to wrestle for the tag team titles, so he's going to be fine.
I saw some people complaining that Braun took a pinfall. Did that bother you last night?
These are the same people that complained about him being buried at Money in the Bank. I would not put much stock into them being upset about him being pinned.
Yeah, you guys are comedians, man. Nothing's going to happen to Braun Breaker. Give me a break. Donnie, thank you, brother. Michelle with a $2 super chat. If Darby went to WWE, could he find success? Sure, if he's still alive.
Yeah,
if he's able to walk.
Absolutely. He'd have to tone his shit down, though. That's why it wouldn't work.
Corey Mitchell with a $10 super chat. You guys are missing a good NXT. I'd rather be here, brother. I'll watch it later or tomorrow. And if Joe Hendry ain't on, I don't give a shit. Francis Lou, yeah, but honestly, I have to say, it could be Tuesday Night Rocks any Tuesday in this household. Just saying. Francis with a $5 super chat. Hey JD, you said last Wednesday that we need the bitch Britt Baker. You meant to say the britch, right? I see what you did there. No, Francis, I was correct in my pronunciation. We need to see the same Britt that supposedly got suspended backstage with MJF on TV. We need to see some anger, for sure. I want to see bitch Britt Baker back. Sidro with a $5 super chat. Here's a good one. I'm not going to work the day Hogan dies. I'm honoring him by refusing to do a job. Thanks, Sidro. Appreciate it.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Very clever. Very clever.
Hogan's got some new beer out, man. I'm very hesitant to try it. I don't think it's going to taste too good.
No, I can't say that I'm overly enthusiastic about trying it. However, I did try, after it came out, the Stone Cold IPA. And I'm not like a big IPA guy, but it was pretty good.
He's got some quality stuff over there, yeah. El
Segundo is a good
brewery.
Too.
Yeah,
he's got a lager, too.
TK Banks with a $5 super chat. When Randy said he won his first world title 20 years ago. I wish Gunther said, who did you beat? Say his name. What paragon of good virtue did you beat? Yeah, well, I mean, do we need any more references? Honestly,
that was a great line though in that promo when Punk was like really pushing him, like, who are you talking about? And Drew was just like, because he knew like he could take it to places that would probably get him in trouble, so he just smirked and left it alone.
Abdullah, thank you once again, brother, for your overwhelming generosity. Appreciate you, man. Sidro with a $5 super chat. How does Vince Russo always avoid traffic coming the wrong way? Consistent swerves, bro. Jason does a good Vince Russo.
Not tonight, he doesn't.
Kaz with a $2 super chat. Jay, you see Denise play Never Have I Ever with Braun. Unfortunately, Kaz, I will remain silent on such topics. Dev with a super chat. Breaker is how Roman should have been booked in 2014. I'm not looking back, Dev, honestly. I think whatever happened with Roman, it ended up being the way that it needs to. We had to live through the bullshit and Vince, and now we are where we need to be. So I'm happy about that.
Remember the Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, great movie.
Andy crawling through the tunnel of shit.
Yeah.
We needed to crawl through the tunnel of shit to come out on the other side.
That was a very good analogy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sidro with a $5 super chat. What did Paul Heyman tell the repairman? If it ain't Brock, don't fix it.
Oh my God.
That was a good one, man. I like that one.
These are getting worse.
Captain Solo with a $10 super chat. A match I would have loved to have seen in AEW was CM Punk versus Malachi Black. Maybe one day we'll get it in WWE. Would you guys say that Black's stay in AEW has been a bust? Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole House of Black is a bust, but I love them. I think they got huge upside, but again, Tony ain't doing shit with them. They will be at the Wembley show, though. They'll be in a triple threat match, I'm assuming, with the Patriarchy and the Bang Bang Gang.
Probably the match that that Death Triangle would have been in had they, well, supposedly had they not left. It hasn't happened yet.
Yes, Captain Solo, I do see Aleister Black back in WWE eventually when his contract is up, whenever that may be. Lucha Trooper with a $5 super chat. It seems that my wish to see the Lucha Brothers at All In appears to be unlikely. Maybe I'll get to see them at WrestleMania when it comes to London. You got a good chance of that happening.
Yeah, very good chance.
Sidro with another $5 super chat. He says, rejected AEW slogan. You can do it. Yeah, they are getting worse. Oh, my goodness.
I told you they're getting worse.
Ben Callanan with a 4 months. Hey, JD, Jason, love the show. Keep doing what you're doing. Just a random thought. The rankings in AEW, are they still a thing? Hashtag best in the IWC. Ben, as far as I am concerned, no.
No, I know. I mean, when was the last time they were updated? It's probably months ago.
April.
Yeah. I don't know why they brought them back in the first place. I said it from day one. Like, this is the stupidest idea. Like, bringing them back, it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They will be abandoned. And they impressed me by how quickly they abandoned them. They abandoned them quicker than I thought they would.
Saquon with a $4.99. This is a very good question. Do you guys think we get Jon Moxley versus Kazuchika Okada at Wembley Stadium? Potentially, maybe. That's another. I completely forgot about him. He's on a little vacation, much deserved, by the way.
But you got the Blackpool Combat Club tie-in there.
Yeah,
possible.
Maybe. Yeah. Sidro with a $5 super chat. Last one. Why did Rikishi seed his lawn to put a little grass on it? Also, to the AEW sickos, touch grass. Thank you, Sidro. Hopefully, that's the last of the cheesy comedy, man. Put a little grass on it. Lewis, thank you, brother, for your generosity. $100 super chat earlier. Billy, thank you so much, brother. Hopefully your recovery is going very well, man. The Juliet 316 with a $5 super chat. Have Danielson win at All In. Drop it to Hangman in Full Gear. Have Swerve win it back at World's End. I mean, What about Seattle or Tacoma rather in Washington? I mean, that's going to be a big show for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do it, I mean, it should be in that place. It really is incredible. If you think you could trace this rise of Swerve back to WrestleDream last year. It all really started there. That first win over Hangman, and then the year he's had since then. And people can crap all over his run all they want to, man. But, you know, Tony Khan, he finally said, okay, we're going to elevate this guy. And Swerve worked his ass off to get to that point. And where he is now is very different than where he was when he was in that coffin match at All In last year.
Definitely. This is a feud that is absolutely, he's going to look back on this as making his career, really. This feud with Hangman is fucking great. I love it. AWC Legend with a $4.99. Been backstabbed by friends who I thought were close friends. Watching TNT gets my mind off and helps the situation for me. Thank you, JD and Jason. Hashtag OTS for life. AWC Legend, I'm very sorry to hear that. It's one of the reasons why I don't have many friends. But we are here for you, brother. We love the comments where it's not even about just, you know, sending in a super chat or a donation, but you guys who sit down, watch the show, and can get lost for a couple hours with what we do, just bullshitting about pro wrestling, man, that's the shit that I love the most. Honestly, thank you. Francis with a $5 super chat. If Dwayne Johnson can call himself The Rock in third person and get it over, then Britt Baker can call herself The Britch in third person. No, she can't, Francis. No. I don't know. Maybe you had a little bit too much to drink tonight, man. No.
It's just that it's one of those things where when it's like you try to get that over, but it ain't gonna work.
No. David, thank you for your generosity earlier, man. Appreciate the $100 bomb. MGM balling with 33 months. I was just the 1,000th like on your tweet about Sassy. Congratulations on the kittens. JD Bacardi's looking down. Proud of you for taking them in. Cheers, bro. Thank you, ballin'. Appreciate it. I will send pictures out to Twitter when I get her home and comfortable. Don Wapo with a $4.99. What's a worse name? The Conglomeration or Pure Fusion Collective? Also, any upcoming games y'all are looking forward to playing? I think they're both equally terrible, but I would probably go with the I don't know what the fucking Conglomeration is and why that sounds so uncool, but I'm gonna go with that, honestly.
It's close enough to the corporation that I think it could work. So yeah, I mean, of the two, it's the less offensive of the two. And it's funny, like somebody tweeted something earlier, and I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently there's like a new 16-bit Halloween, like based on the movie, like Halloween game.
I heard about that today. I didn't see anything yet, but I did hear about that.
Yeah, I just heard about that today too. So that looks interesting. I mean, I don't know what platforms it'll be for, but that looks interesting.
Triple M, $2 super chat. Bungie fumbled with a name change situation today. Yeah, I didn't log in today, so hopefully my name is right where it needs to be. Triple M. I had one guy who had his name changed that's on my friends list, and he was complaining about it. BW Rosas with a $5 super chat. Do you think this Liv Rhea thing goes back further, perhaps to the night Rhea broke up their tag team a few years back and Liv hasn't gotten over it? Could be. They haven't really mentioned that yet, but I mean, if you want to go back, they certainly have that to tell. I don't think we need to.
Yeah, I mean, they can make it go back as far as they want, but I think you just trace it back to the injury.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the revenge tour. You know, you hurt me, and now I'm going to hurt you back.
Hey, JD, question. What was your favorite Damian Priest theme song? The current one, Infamy, or the one called Sinner V1 he had in 2021? Whatever the original one was in black and gold. I thought that entrance and the theme was really cool. But if you're comparing Damian Priest from then to now, I mean, Damian Priest is not even the same fucking guy. I watched his documentary. Fantastic stuff, by the way. If you guys have not seen it on the WWE Network or Peacock, go out of your way to watch it. It's great stuff.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard good things about it. Usually those 24 docs are really good.
Yeah, it just they're all so likable, and you can see how close knit they are. And Damian Priest is from the Bronx, so I got a little special place for someone like that comes from there, because I was born and raised there. But he's such a likable guy, very family orientated, Really good. So if you guys missed that, go check that out.
And you look at a picture of him early in his career compared to now, like a totally different person.
No, he's not even the same guy.
Yeah.
BW with the $2 super chat. We'll have 2 Hell in the Cell matches, Rhea and Liv and Drew Punk. Yeah, we forgot to talk about Drew Punk, too. I mean, it was so brief last night, but I think everybody kind of focused in on the belt that Punk was holding. I know it will probably be a strap match, Jason. Some people are like, man, it should be a dog collar match. I'm like, WWE's never going to sanction a dog collar match between these two, even though I think Punk would love one. It's going to be a traditional strap match, the same way we got Fiend Danielson at the Royal Rumble all those years ago. I think that's good enough.
Yeah, he made a comment backstage about how they're kind of bound by that bracelet, and then it was like he had this idea, and he says, "I have an idea that I think will make everybody happy."
Yeah.
So that's where this is headed.
Love to see a dog collar match, guys, but it ain't happening. Juliet with a $5 super chat. Orton's last singles PLE win was against Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Don't remind me. That match was not good. That's WrestleMania 37, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where Bray came out of the box, or as Michael Cole called it, the giant box-like structure, which is a box.
And Alexa Bliss started bleeding black goo from her forehead.
She was vomiting black goo.
Yes.
She wasn't bleeding. Just came out of her. Yeah. Same stuff.
Irv Wallace with 6 months. Being here for 6 months was one of the best moves I made. Nobody does it better than you two in the IWC. Great job as always, JD and Solomon. So Irv, appreciate that, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Irv.
WrestleMess, $10 super chat. A little something to help with the new kitty. Much appreciated, man. Thank you. Kel with a $4.99. Much love to both of you. Side note, Final Testament is 100% freshly squeezed ash juice. Listen,
it's the final testicle. Gotta get it right.
It's the final testicle, yes. Listen, I know it's not lighting the world on fire, but I'm just glad that there's some sort of direction now, and Odyssey Jones has kind of injected a new life into it. So I'm actually enjoying where it may be going and what happens with Xavier Woods on the other end. So I'm looking forward to it. Furious Nation with a 34 months and a $4.99. He says, another great episode of TNT tonight. Congrats, JD, on the adoption of Sassy and her kittens. Thank you, brother. Also looking forward to my 28th birthday this Friday. Happy birthday. Also, he says, making a bold prediction for 2025. Braun Breaker wins King of the Ring and defeats Gunther for the World Heavyweight title at SummerSlam in 2025.
I don't see it. I don't see it in part because I think John Cena is going to be in that role.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm going for. I think Breaker will be a champion potentially 2026 for sure. Eminem, $2 super chat. Does we still have a chance for Nigel and Danielson? I don't think we are getting Nigel versus Danielson. No.
I think that ship sailed when they didn't do it in London. I think London would have been a good place for it.
Yeah.
So you can't say no. I mean, did you see his interview with Chris Van Vliet?
I have not listened to that yet, no.
Yeah, it's a good interview, and he basically says that the only match he would really come out of retirement for would be Danielson. So it could still happen, but it just felt to me like London would have been, because you could tell how much it would have meant to him to do a match at Wembley, and it just didn't work out. So never say never, but I think it's probably not looking great.
I would have probably went that direction if I had the pen. I probably would have did Swerve and Paige, but I'm not booking the show. Tony is. Chris with a $4.99. What's up, TNT crew? Orton wins the WWE title at Bad Blood. Does Cody win it back at the Rumble, or does he win it back at Mania 41 in Vegas? That's a good question. Do we want a second year in a row with Cody winning the world title to end WrestleMania, or do we have him walking into WrestleMania as the champion against The Rock? That's the question.
Well, it just comes down to what The Rock is doing. If The Rock is wrestling Cody, then Cody wins the belt back at the Rumble.
Yeah.
If not, then you can save it for Mania. I mean, I don't think there's any issue with him winning the belt 2 years in a row at Mania. I think that's fine. We had Roman defending the belt for like 4 years in a row at Mania. So Cody winning it twice, back-to-back years, I have no issue with that.
As long as the story calls for it, I don't mind it.
Yeah. Just put together an interesting, compelling story, because the build for WrestleMania this year was very compelling.
Yeah.
It made for a lot of great television. That's really all I want. Just give me great TV. Give me good build, and I'll be happy.
Daniel Malcolm with a 3 month. 3 months and many more to come. Hey, when getting into local indie promotions, are there any modicums of flesh I should be keen on going forward?
What? Say that again?
I read it as it was coming into me, man. When getting into local indie promotions, are there any modicums of flesh I should be keen on going forward? That's exactly what he wrote to me. I
don't know what that means. I thought you said flesh at first. Then
flesh.
Yeah, but that makes even less sense, though. Like, modicums of flesh.
I don't know what you mean, Daniel. I want to help you, but you got to simplify what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to process it. I just don't know. I don't know what you're asking.
And Furious Nation, we'll end with this. $4.99 enough. Even though Buddy Matthews re-signed with AEW, I think Malachi does go back to WWE when his AEW deal is up. Hopefully, Root of Evil and not Def Rebel. Yeah, well, someone told me that Def Rebel's contract is coming up at 2025. I don't know how true that is.
Can you imagine like a Def Rebel thing where he has that like signature at the very beginning? Like what word would they have the voice saying at the beginning of his song?
What was his quote in WWE? Did he have a quote or a favorite phrase?
No, I don't think so. I mean, when he was sitting in that room for weeks at a time, he was saying "fight me," but yeah, that's about it. Like, fight me. That was like for fucking 8 weeks in a row. But no, I don't think he had like a catchphrase or anything that I remember. I don't think so.
They'll make up one for him, and then it'll be terrible.
It'd be like Bailey, like, role model.
Role model. That's so fucking bad. LA Knight's got new theme music, not written by Def Rebel, and it sounds really, really good. So hopefully,
people are saying that, but like it's the same fucking song. They just added some like bass and some beats to it. It's the same song though.
Hey, listen, man. If you can polish the turd that they gave us, why not?
Nah, his was one of the songs I really didn't mind, but like people were going crazy, like, oh, he's got new music, and I'm like, if people weren't going crazy about it, I don't know that I would have even picked up on the fact that his music had changed. Like, it's the same basic theme.
Yeah, Black Mass, Fade to Black. Yeah, Fade to Black. What's some fucking evil sound? Fuck out of here. Anyway, guys, thank you for a great episode 61 here on Tuesday night. We'll be right back at you next week for episode 62. As always, I will leave this gentleman here to sound us off at the end of 61. Jason, what do you got?
Well, not much, because again, it was a rough day, but you guys have made me feel better after a crappy day of a root canal. So you put a smile on my face, a little less pain in my jaw. So I will say thank you, and hopefully that'll be the last of that for the time being.
There you go, guys. Make sure you guys continue to hit that thumbs up. We are 11 likes away from 1,000. I know we'll get there, but I'd love to see that number reach 1 and 3 zeros by the time I end the stream. Thank you guys for all the support. Super Chat love was tremendous tonight. And we will be back individually. Jason will be covering Dynamite. I'll be covering Dynamite. And we are on our way to AEW All In, the next big show. And then right after that, we got Bash in Berlin. So we got a lot still yet to come in August. Hit that subscribe button. Social media, Twitter, Instagram, everything you need is linked down below. And we will see you guys next week right back here Tuesday night for episode 62 of Tuesday Night Titan. We'll see you guys later.